Afternoon. The time is now 1 o'clock and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting of 2013, November 13th, 2018 is called back to order. Next item on the agenda is public participation in the State Board of Education meeting. Marilyn, do we have any individuals who would like to address the board this afternoon?
Yes, I have 2 public participation forms. Does anyone else have a form they'd like to give me? Okay, you'll have 5 minutes and you can monitor that. And so you'll be able to tell your time. And Katherine Roberts is first, followed by Aaron Brown. So you can just sit at the end of the table. You're Katherine?
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Katherine Roberts. I'm an associate professor of reading, language, and literature in the College of Education at Wayne State University, and I also have 2 kids in kindergarten and 3rd grade in the public schools in Michigan. And I'm here primarily to talk about the standards, the teacher preparation standards that you have in front of you for today, and just to really emphasize how crucial I think it is that as a caveat, I know very little about the math standards, only the literacy ones. I assume the math ones are good, but that the new literacy standards pass because as is a hot topic right now, our kids in this state are in a very precarious situation in terms of literacy. And these standards are a substantial improvement to the existing standards, both in depth and breadth and in the representation of stakeholders when they were being created. And it's based in the most current research, which is what our kids really deserve. So they were created and vetted by representatives from pre-K-12 education, so general education teachers, administrators, special education teachers, technology experts, higher education people from teacher education, but also content area people in mathematics and sciences, and crucially for those pre-K 3-1 speech and language pathologists, as oral language is such an important part for our littlest kids. And the Michigan Department of Education was at the table, and the Michigan International Dyslexia Association, and all of those people brought their respective sets of research and standards for their field, which was fantastic. They reflect the positions coming out of all of those organizations. One of the things that I think is really important about them is we're thinking about the crisis in reading for our kids in 3rd and 4th grade, is that the instruction that happens through these standards is much more specific to what kids need at those grade levels. As it is right now, when we certify people for elementary, they're certified K-5, but they can teach non-departmentalized, meaning all subject areas with the same class of kids like in rural districts, through grade 8. Which means that when they move through our programs, they have to get at least a cursory level of what it looks like, both to teach the alphabet and the letters and the sounds and early reading skills, and to analyze the themes in Jane Eyre. So they're spreading themselves rather thin. And by putting them in bands this way, we're letting our candidates go much deeper into the content areas that they need to know to be able to teach those early literacy skills. And it's hard to teach little children things, so that's fantastic. They're much more granular and specific about the skills required. Our standards that we have now are fairly broad. These are very clear in the skills, the pedagogy, the knowledge, and the dispositions towards things like continual professional development that we expect to see when people are graduating from our institutions. They go well beyond the 5 to 6 constructs of literacy that you often see in programs like this, and they divide them up more specifically into about 13-ish. And in each of those, they require the teachers to know what they are, how it develops within children cognitively, how to assess them, and how to base their instruction on that assessment. They're meticulously tied to the most recent research, and our kids deserve that. They're not ideological. They're not based on gut feelings. Everything is backed by empirical research. And I think one of the great things about them is that this triggers a change in what happens in higher education as well. So when these standards, if these standards get approved, they move forward then, and every institution in the state that certifies teachers is then required to submit a program to be approved by Michigan Department of Education that aligns with those standards, which means some of these issues that have been coming up based on national information, not on information out of syllabi, particularly out of Michigan, but based on national information, that have sort of been looking at whether or not teacher education, particularly in reading, is aligned with the research. and finding some rather negative things, again, nationally, not looking specifically at Michigan's work, but that this triggers an audit of all of that, because all of the programs have to be resubmitted anew and have to show the alignment with these standards. And then the teacher certification tests will be updated as well to make sure that our teachers exiting know this. And one of the things that I think is great about this is that they also align with the essential practices for literacy instruction and coaching that have come out in our state, which means that not only will our pre-service teachers be getting this moving forward, but we have an actual mechanism in place to get it out to our in-service teachers as well and have all of that align. And I really hope that these are the kinds of things that we move forward with in our state, and that when we continue to base decisions about our children, either legislatively or by rule, that this kind of solid research is what it's based on. Done.
Good job.
The next speaker is Erin Brown.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Brown. I'm an educator in Michigan and a parent as well of a 5th and 7th grader. I work for the Muskegon Area Intermediate School District. I'm an ELA consultant, so I teach teachers once they're in the field. Not before, but once they're in, around literacy education. I'm also a part-time educator on loan working for Michigan Association for Intermediate School Administrators. In that role, I'm a coordinator for professional learning, and the early literacy coaches across Michigan that are now in every single county have a network, and I support and facilitate that network. So I'm tightly connected to all of the literacy coaches in every county in our great state. So with those perspectives, I come and bring strong support for the standards of preparation for lower elementary and upper elementary teachers. And I'm speaking from the point of view of teachers in the field themselves already, experienced teachers, novice teachers, mentor teachers, teachers who are working with the newest teachers in our field. I work with beginning teachers and their mentors and their colleagues, providing that literacy professional learning. And there's a vast divide between the skills and knowledge that new teachers possess when they enter the field and the high level of knowledge and ability and disposition needed to be able to teach our young Michiganders. I'm also speaking from the literacy perspective and less from the mathematics perspective today. And this issue is not localized to certain areas of the state. It's not that certain universities are failing and certain universities are getting it right, simply because our standards are out of date, not aligned with current science and research. We have a true disequilibrium in Michigan around how our colleagues are prepared. A common concern in all counties when we talk with the coaches is that there's this huge discrepancy between the knowledge that teachers need when they're entering the field, specifically around teaching emergent readers and writers, and the knowledge that the colleagues that are already in the field have had to possess for themselves and develop for themselves. These standards bring cohesion and the rigor needed to align all pre-service programs in Michigan around the highest quality literacy skills and knowledge for our students. Dr. Roberts talked a little bit about the fact that these standards are not tied to ideology or philosophy or gut feelings. This is truly about all of our educational organizations and universities coming together and deciding upon which we can truly trust for the future of our state. They go deep into the elements that you hear about, the phonological awareness, the phonics, spelling, word reading, writing, comprehension that our students need and that are a persistent concern in Michigan. There are 3 pages specifically dedicated to these elements in this 13 construct set of standards. So I simply thank you and respectfully name that I'm in strong support of these standards for the preparation of teachers of lower elementary and upper elementary. And I thank you for your time, and I thank you, Laura, for your representation here. And she also has been a part of the training around the essentials too. So she would be able to speak a little bit more to the cohesion between the work happening in the state for current service teachers and the work that we want to now bring forward for our pre-service teachers in Michigan. Thank you.
I believe that concludes public participation.
Seeing no other public participation, we will go back to our Committee of the Whole meeting agenda. Item D, which is presentation on the Michigan Department of Education's response to the state's determination of path forward. This is a continuation of this morning's presentation, and I invite Scott Kennischek and Terry Chapman back to the table to continue the conversation that we started this morning. And we are ready now to respond to questions or hear comments from board. And who would like to begin?
I guess
Tom?
I can. So can you explain a little bit more about the team, what the goals are going to be of the team, teaming structure? What can we expect the outcome to be?
Sure.
And I don't see parents represented in this, the steering committee champions. I know some are parents, you mentioned that already, but, I know our friend Marcy, maybe, I don't know. Somebody who has been an advocate for parents through this, I didn't see that. But you can take the first one first.
Sure. So the teaming structure on page 49, that's going to serve as the larger steering committee or advisory committee. I'll take the second one as well in terms of parents. Mark McWilliams works for Michigan Protection and Advocacy Service, and so they certainly have a very big lens with regard to parents in advocacy. And so there is parent representation on this larger steering committee. In terms of the goal of the larger steering committee, that goes back to that graphic on page 41. This particular steering committee will meet a couple of times. One is to hear this presentation, and then talk more about additional data that they would like to see, and then meet again in January to really develop what we're calling a shared vision for success. So what would success for children with disabilities look like in the state of Michigan? And then develop what we call a theory of action, that if we do this, then students will be successful. And so it's kind of more of the design, overseeing, overarching group. That group, back to page 41, I believe, or 49, then gets to nominate 3 people to serve on more of the working committees. And those working committees, again, are going to be aligned around MSTEP participation and the why and why not and the challenges and barriers that exist with that. NAEP participation and NAEP achievement and the why not, the barriers, the challenges. Graduation rate and dropout rate. So those 4 working committees will meet January through June on a monthly basis to do a deeper dive than this teaming structure and advisory committee. Knowing that each one of those folks on the steering committee has 3 reps that they can designate, we can certainly designate parents or other folks to serve on those work groups, if that makes sense.
May or may not.
Yeah, yep.
So my concern would be is if they don't, obviously, I could see parents needing to be half of this, of the effort, but
We also
it may
have.
end up being a couple.
Sure. We also have SEAC, which is a Special Education Advisory Council, which Fran obviously coordinates. I used to sit on, Michelle, I think, was on it, Terry's on it. And that particular group is about 30 to 35 folks that meet monthly, and half of those folks are parents. So that is certainly a group that we're going to tap. So there will be parent involvement, Tom. Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? Michelle?
Yeah, so I was going to say Representative Callie is a daughter with autism, but I share your sentiments that there should be awareness of having parents on there and getting that perspective as well. And I don't know if there's a PTA or group that, or whatever, some organizations may be affiliated with SEAC already that might be able to provide representation. Maybe that can be done through the committees, but I do think, or having somebody with disabilities on the committee as well, I think would provide some insight. So I think it's a good plan. I like a lot of the options that you're looking at. I've often wondered about the alternative, other types of diplomas that they do in other states, and I think that would have served my son. The one who ended up getting a certificate of completion might have served him well. Certificate of completion doesn't really mean anything, it's like something with that represented some knowledge or skills would be useful, I think, in helping him get a job or move on to whatever. So one of the areas that I've often heard, it's more anecdotal and I don't have the data on it, but I hear it all the time, are parents who feel they're denied certain services that they should have. And I've talked to principals as well, and sometimes the principals would love to give them those services, they just don't have the budget. And even if they put it in the IEP, they might not have the resources to actually follow through with, the occupational therapy or the speech therapy or all those kinds of things. So I don't know if that's something that contributes to, the outcomes, the negative outcomes and results, or not. But I don't know if that's, I know you talked about looking at the alternative funding, which I think that's directly linked to that. If there's no funding, and we're so underfunded in special ed, it's going to naturally lead to not having necessary services that could make success. But I'm just wondering if there's been any sort of an assessment of where those areas of underserving might be. If, when we look at we're always looking at the state aggregate, but if we look at, are there certain areas where there are higher dropout rates than others, and what's going on in those particular areas, because they're so varied, and maybe it's not across, I'm sure there's problems across the state with funding, of course, but it seems like there might be strategic ways of looking at this and narrowing in on where are the real problem areas. Are they related to resources or equity, or maybe, is there any assessment like that going on, and where it kind of takes it down to a different level, not just an overall state level?
So that hasn't happened yet, but that is part of one of our ideas for the path forward, is to actually go to each ISD and look at their performance on these accountability matrix indicators. So we walk through those ones at the state level. We believe we can drill down to the ISD level. And so that would be the strategy, would be to look at ISD by ISD, how they did on the results side and compliance side, and then provide what we're calling tiered intervention for them. So ISDs that may not necessarily need the help can be looked to as best practices, and we can start to have those conversations. And other ISDs who are struggling a little bit more with one of those indicators, then we can provide a little more intensive supports for them. So we haven't done it yet, but that's certainly one of the ideas on the path forward.
If I could just.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the work of the Office of Special Education, we look at the compliance requirements on whether or not IEPs are being followed and implemented, and when we find that they're not, we have to correct for those things. But we're now changing and working with ISDs differently to support them, so they're going to have a more active role closer to districts to be engaged in really understanding some of those practices so that we can better support them. One of the things we've been doing this past year is actually learning a process through how you actually take the data that we have so much of and use it for some meaningful analysis. That's what we have Jerry for. We've been working with Louisiana State University this past year to use a process and teach that process to our ISD special education directors. And one of the priorities this year we're looking at is graduation. The other one is dropout. Another one is suspension. And we're going through a process of trying to figure out just the things you're saying, Michelle. What other kinds of things are contributing to this issue we're trying to understand? And what data do we already have that could kind of narrow down our focus? And then what kind of activities can we do to better understand those practices that are kind of showing up in that data? But the ultimate goal with using the data in that way is to get to a point where we have an ability to respond differently to how we actually improve an outcome for a child that's more than just, are you doing what's being called for in the IEP? But really looking at a system that's better supported to be able to do the things that they're being required to do. So it's a long-term, multi-leveled approach, but I think it's very aligned and coordinated, and all of the work that we're doing through this is bringing it all together. We have a long history of collecting and reporting data,
Right.
right? And we do required monitoring activities, and when we find noncompliance, we have to fix it. But we've not had a process of really using that data to inform us about an appropriate response to help improve something from a systemic level. That's the bigger change, I think.
If I could just ask one more follow-up? Okay. So when, in looking at these areas, I'm also wondering of environmental contributors, like Genesee County, so, and I know in Detroit and all over, the lead is linked to all kinds of stuff and the pollution. So it might not necessarily be practices that, or it's the environmental or in the community that can be controlled by a school, and if that's also being considered, and I don't know what the experiences are in these other states, in the Great Lakes states, if they have the same sorts of issues with lead exposure and environmental exposures that we do, but there was a study from U of M that shows that, the higher the lead, the lower the standardized test score. It correlates, so.
Our processes don't look specifically at lead exposure, but we do talk a lot with districts about really suspecting a disability and what rises to the level of some ability to start thinking differently about a struggling child versus a child who may actually have a disability. And those are all spelled out in how we meet our child find obligations. And I think there is a differing understanding now because of the situation we experienced in Genesee County, that needs have to be looked at really differently and critically in terms of how kids may have been performing at one point in their academic career and how that may change over time. That's got to be a point of consideration.
And from a high-level point of view, as I said in the beginning, is this will have many tentacles, and maybe these are some of the conversations that will spin off from the conversations that we have when we talk about trying to improving the results of our kids.
I then have Pam and Eileen.
Yeah, and mine is tied to what Michelle just said, and I recall when Lieutenant Governor Calley first came and presented to us, and this was before the Flint water crisis, and so I was asking about how are we integrating these environmental exposures and what we know and what we've long known and what we've long called for, and now that we do have a Flint water crisis, and I'm just thinking of a parent that was that I met a few months ago, and she had a miscarriage. She was pregnant, and she lost one child. She learned that she was pregnant with twins, and the way that she found out she was pregnant with twins is because she lost the first child, and the other child was yet living and growing inside of her until that she lost that child. At the same time that she was going through that, she was going through a child that had been suspended at some astronomical number. And they also found that she had high levels of lead that she was exposed to, and most likely the child who was being suspended in school. So it is very critical that we don't just, and I know you didn't mean this, but that we're not just start thinking about this, but these are things that we've long known, and so we definitely have to catch these two things up. So I'm surprised that there's not someone on the board that's not looking at exposures in the physical environment, such as lead poisoning or things that exacerbate asthma, again, which is the leading cause of absenteeism. And I appreciate the predictive data that you gave us here. The other thing that we have to look at is trauma-induced learning disabilities. We're really taking a hard look at toxic stress of the mom as well, and that child being exposed from pre-birth to throughout their childhood, and really digging into that and looking at how is that driving our numbers here. And then the other thing that I would really be interested in looking at again is because Eileen gave us some numbers where we're not only failing our special ed children, but our children of color. So really looking at these expulsion rates, and I would really like to see the suspension and expulsion rates and see how we're looking at those and looking at what are the drivers of some of those things, especially when we see certain populations being expelled at a much higher rate. and what's the driver of that? So how are our educators and those who our children are nurtured by or to be nurtured by, how are they able to relate to our children? So those are some things that I would like to see. And then just really going back to Tom's question of who's on the board, and I see where there's opportunity for these people to add additional people. And I know it's hard, but that we get some people who have some experience in environmental exposures, trauma, informed principles, how to deal with resiliency, toxic stress through resiliency principles, and really looking at us really digging in deep. I mean, it would be horrible if Michigan had a Flint, Michigan, and we didn't be the leaders in this area. So those are just some thoughts that I would have.
Thank you for the feedback. On page 8 is a list of some other folks that could participate on some of those working committees, and so your feedback is very helpful, Dr. Pugh, in terms of other folks, and there is a piece in there. We can certainly reach out to other people from other state department agencies, DHHS, on the DEQ, those kinds of folks too. So appreciate the feedback and certainly made the notes.
And we've done a lot around early childhood that gets at some of this stuff too. And Michigan has been the lead. Again, this was pre-Flint, that we were the lead on some of that trauma-informed care stuff as well. So,
Thank you, Pam. And now to Eileen.
So I was going to ask about multi-tiered systems of support, but before I do that, let me just say that I think that Pam is jumping item 11O, and I think that she's just proposed that we look for partners to do research on issues beyond the compliance and better performance for Michigan schools. But is there a way to find out whether there's a significant enough impact on children in these areas that could be resolved by what I was going to bring up, better data collection? Because I'm not sure, having done that study on autism 8 years ago, we found so many silos of data that we couldn't really conduct the research. Michigan State struggled like crazy on this, and what should have taken 2 years took more like 4. And even then, it was only with the cooperation of the department and in letting down some firewalls that were okay to be let down, that weren't FERPA related, that it was able to be finished. And I'm concerned because we made realistic and smart cutbacks in data collection, but I don't know if we've realigned any data collection for the kind of information that could lead us out of this morass with kids who need us most. And it seems to me that, I mean, I don't know if I'm onto something, but it's pretty hard to correct things. You've collated a lot of data, but whether or not you got the data you need to be able to move people to better practices is what you're going to find out next. And
One of the questions, what data is missing? Yep.
what data is missing, or what data could be repurposed? What, are we asking the right questions of the things that we're gathering? Because it could be that all you're going to do is find out numbers, and what you need to do is find out practices. So that leads me back to multi-tiered systems of support. And the only question I want to ask on that is, do we know who's implementing it with fidelity beyond our reach? Because the department, through Top 10 and 10, has an initiative that's doing that with a number of districts. But Scott, you did it without MDE when you were at Ingham. So are there other districts that are trying to implement it and are doing a good or poor job of it because they don't have the fidelity that they might? And if they're doing a good job, is their homespun version of it making a difference with their kids? And do we collect data?
MyBlissy, if they're working with MyBlissy. So there are some data points. If a district's working with MyBlissy, they will have some of that information, but not all ISDs work with MyBlissy either. And so I would say it would be a scattershot. We would have some information. The biggest challenge is the definition of MTSS and is it being done with fidelity? That's where the transformation zones come in, where the department led to create a definition of that statewide, and then a process to help districts implement that. So we, I think, are leading at the state level. But what's happening out in the rest of the state, I don't think we have one centralized pot of information. But it's a good question to ask as we take a look at improving these results.
And the very last scattershot would be, is there a way to look at schools beating the odds? I don't know if we're still collating. I remember when we used to report on districts or schools that were high-performing, even though all of the characteristics led you to believe that they shouldn't be. And I wonder whether they're doing anything that is of higher value to their special ed kids.
Another great point. The Reading Now Network did that on the west side, where they looked at schools in the lowest or highest poverty and then highest reading results. And so we could do something similar of numbers of children with disabilities and the highest graduation rate, lowest dropout rate. Is that kind of what we're,
Right.
the outliers, identify those outliers?
Do you have the data to do that?
Yeah, I would say we have it.
I would say we do for some.
Jerry? You up for that one?
Okay.
He's taking notes.
There's a lot available that could be repurposed.
So, I'm sorry, are you from CEPI or the department? Office. Well, there's a moment here, Sheila, as you prepare for the next superintendent. We're cleaning this up internally, or at least understanding what the problems are, especially with the new governor. It makes sense to be able to articulate that this is a budget issue if it really does need new data collection, or a coordination issue with CEPI. We're under such pressure from USDOE, it's a perfect moment to try and figure it out.
We'll make it happen.
Nikki and Scott, would you introduce
Sure, I introduced Jerry at the very
Jerry?
beginning. but,
Introduce
this is
Jerry, his full name and his title.
Jerry Cullum, Dr. Jerry Cullum. Dr. Cullum works for Terry in the Office of Special Ed and specializes in data analysis. And a lot of the, well, not a lot of it, all of the data that we presented earlier, Jerry took the lead on in terms of collecting that data, not collecting it, but analyzing that data. And that's where the real power comes in. And so we'll continue to work with Jerry. To your point, identifying the outliers, I think is a great idea. So
I just want to say that we saw this data has been coming a long time, but trying to put systems in place to be able to be responsive doesn't happen quickly. And so as we have had staff vacancies in our office, we've tried to look for a different kind of data support. Jerry was hired in our office a few years ago because he comes with analytical skills. And we have lots of people that collect and report data, but Jerry was the person we hired for this purpose. But it's taken us until about the last year to actually have a system in place that can benefit from his expertise. So I'm excited that we have the information. We've just never really had the capacity to be able to do much to figure out what we were supposed to understand with it. And I'm very optimistic that between CEPI's efforts and many of the things you have all mentioned today, there's lots of things there for us to draw meaning from. And how we understand it is going to be really important in trying to develop short-term and long-term plans for how we actually improve those things to improve outcomes for students.
Nikki, did you have?
I just have a quick question. GLCC, is that the the group that you'll look to get information from what other states are doing?
certainly they can help us with that. Yeah, that is a national technical assistance center that provides TA or technical assistance to the department on multiple fronts. But yeah, with the Great Lakes, I believe Brichelle represents Indiana, Ohio. I don't know if she goes as far west as Minnesota, but yeah, they'll be very helpful.
So is there a group of leaders, Great Lakes-wise, that come together every year or?
Special education directors do by different sizes and configurations. I'm not sure if these specific ones are a group, but they're a small enough group that we can make personal contact with each of them, which I think is going to be important as well.
Al?
Thank you. Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Scott, I know you're working really hard, you're really dedicated. If there's anything I can do to help, don't hesitate.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to both Scott and to Terry and to Jerry for the data that you provided as well. And the heading of this work is called The Path Forward. We can, we must, and we will do better for our children with disabilities and their families. Critical in making Michigan a top 10 education state in the next 10 years. So thank you for your presentation today and your continued efforts in this area. Next item on the Committee of the Whole agenda is the update from the Office of Partnership Districts. The Office of Partnership Districts will provide updates to the 21H grant approval process, an overview of the review of goal attainment process, and general office updates. We will also provide an update on the Benton Harbor area schools. This is a monthly presentation to the board. No action is required. And our presenters today are Vanessa Kiesler and Luana Shelton.
And Dan Ledoux's going to
And Dan Ledoux.
Okay, you should have PowerPoint coming and a handout coming. Okay, good afternoon. We're just going to give you some general updates. We're going to go back to 21H application award process, which we said we would revisit and give you a little bit more detail. And we're going to look at the review of goal attainments, and that's the 18-month process that we are much further along on. And then finally, I think just a quick little update on Benton Harbor. Dan. Thank you. So again, we have in front of you, we always try to put the legislation in front of you about the 21H grant, so you understand the parameters of the grant.
Speak up.
Yes, I sure can. I've never been accused of not being loud. Again, last year, we were awarded $6 million, which we handed out at the time to the first 9 districts and then the additional 8 districts, I believe, which totaled $6 million. This year, we were awarded $7 million, which the base amount is $6 million, and they gave us $1 million more. So we do expect, we hope to get $6 million next year. If we ask for more, then hopefully we'll get more. Right now, we are at $3.3 million that has been awarded. And if you flip ahead, remember I gave you the windows. So we do have 3 more active windows that the districts can apply for. In this first window of this year, now that we've started to normalize everything, this first window, we really did encourage only the newest districts so we could normalize the playing field that everybody has had a chance to apply. Again, the criteria has been and will continue to be consistent, that it is awarded based on their use around professional development for district teachers, district leadership, school leadership, increased instructional time, teacher mentoring, and then innovative initiatives that directly have a positive impact on student growth and proficiency.
And those criteria come from 21H, so they're in the legislation.
I wanted to run through this for you because I know there were some questions before. So when we first started with this, our first version of doing it, the liaisons reviewed and recommended amounts, and then at an all staff, they reviewed and kind of went through a scoring. This was after I had left the office. The second version of this was what the first version was, but then we wanted to institute more of a subcommittee to start to prioritize because, again, there was a limited amount of money and it could only go so far. So we really needed to whittle it down to make sure that everybody had a chance at some of the money. The third version, and I shouldn't even say version, I know I said version, but the third round of doing this, the SRO director did most of the reviewing and signing off. But that was when a little bit of money that was left on the table. So we were really making an effort to get it out of the door under our own restrictions. Yes.
Michelle?
So you will be going back, so that sounds like you were just doing it to just get a little bit out. So does that mean you will be reinstituting the liaison review and recommendation? Or,
No. Go ahead and go to the next page, which is page 7 now. So what we did this year was I think I ended the last one saying that it was a paper pencil application. So we moved the paper pencil application to be a little bit more efficient into Jim's Mars for schools to get in there and get it done, and we could review it much quicker. We also asked that the liaison review it, make suggestions and recommendations, and that's also is in the Jim's Mars platform. I reviewed, assistant director I have up there, but I reviewed and approved what was under the parameters and also looking at possible caps of not awarding everything. And a subcommittee, which consisted of Dan and one of our other people, reviewed and made sure there was consistency and accuracy, and we actually found some errors in addition and so on and so forth. So we cleaned that piece up. Now we are now to our fifth and final version of doing this. So we have actually put a pause on the Jim's Mars application because we went back and we did a lot more to make sure we captured all the good information that we needed. That'll be opening back up very, very soon.
So just so because I'm unclear, so what kind of checks and balances is it? So it went from being like a committee, as I understand it, a committee decision and review and discussion about how the money is allocated to one person?
Sort of, maybe. I mean, it went from being at a staff meeting and discussed. So what we've talked about is having the right people looking at what's being requested and getting back to the basics of what this was all about. This grant was always about exhaustive measures. It's not meant to sustain something. It's not really meant to supplement in the sense that we think of supplementing, right?
No, I have no problem with the criteria. Yeah. My concern is that if the decisions are only, it's not done in an open meeting. It's not.
So now,
if it's done by one or two people.
Well, let's do a couple of things.
Going back to
the previous version, there were, like the third time around, really, Dr. Martin approved and sent things out. So what we've landed on, based on the feedback of the board and thinking about it and revising, is this version 5, where there is, Luana was getting to that, this idea of a partnership funding committee to review, and that is a cross-department committee that helps us evaluate the use of this funding, but also work with these districts intensively to think about how this funding interacts with their other funding so they can make better strategic investments. It works us toward our integrated needs planning and funding work that we're doing in MyKIP, and also works us toward the idea of differentiated supports to districts, so partnership districts getting intensive supports. So we have added back in a committee, but reshaped who the committee is and thought more about how we get to that really proactive, not only approval of the money that's in front of it, but approvals of the money unto a larger goal. And even in version 4, this is the committee that makes a recommendation. There's a slide coming up. There's a full approval path after that where I approve, there's multiple other approvals that come through that. So it's not, this is what, before we see it to review, yes, these are who's getting it and why, the team that works to make recommendations to us. So I guess we are taking your feedback, adding in another kind of layer of joint review, helping us reach our strategic goals.
Who's on that committee? That partnership?
It's going to be. We don't have the membership yet.
It's like 20 people.
We're just now sending out and asking directors, but it's people that in each of the offices and or programs or projects, however you want to say it, that are directly connected to the dollars. So not necessarily an assistant director, but maybe an analyst that has the information in front of them that can share, saying that this district got this district got that amount, and this is what they submitted and asked to use the money for.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a pretty comprehensive committee. We're actually really excited about it because the committee also is going to serve, well, let me just go on. Let me say this and then I'll go on to the committee. So what we want to really do, again, is go back to the spirit of the partnership district model. It's partnership. And the liaison role was from the beginning and always has been to be a connector, not to make decisions, not to be put in a situation that, if I go to my liaison, I'm going to get a yes. No, that person needs to be as neutral as possible. We want that person to have lots of knowledge about lots of things, to know how to connect and when to connect their districts when they ask questions. So one thing that we wanted to do was make sure that the money part of this did not fall on liaisons at all. So now in the approval process, we really are removing the liaison. The liaison should be there with the districts as they're writing the applications, going over those dossiers, saying, look, one question that we have here is that you got this much in Title I, but you carry over 5 million every year. So why is that? Why aren't you using the monies? That's the role of the liaison, not to make the recommendation, not to make the approval. Because then, it really is almost like an oxymoron. That liaison really is supposed to be as neutral as possible. And that's what we say here. We're really getting back to that fundamental principle of what the liaison is about. The funding stream committee. This is what we're excited about, because it gets back to some of the stuff that we actually started by having some of our cross-office meetings around partnership districts. So this is going to satisfy one part of it. And what we would like is that we would like this committee to meet once a month to discuss these multiple funding streams, to put forth questions to give to the liaisons to ask. It's, okay, your 31A money, you've actually concentrated it here, but your needs assessment says this, and even your partnership district agreement, so why haven't you used the money in this way? So it's going to be a really good committee to really get districts thinking about how they are using the monies that they have, and whether they're leaving on the table and waiting till the next year to spend, et cetera. And so to give you a quick example, we did kind of like a tiny little pilot with Flint, as a matter of fact. Flint had asked for quite a bit of money in the 21H, which is a very limited amount. And when I brought the dossier, that we call it, of all the different funding streams to the Flint superintendent, he just looked at me and he shook his head and he goes, if I would have known this, that I wouldn't have asked for all these things. I didn't realize that we had been carrying over, and historically these things had happened. So it was really a validation, and we had a great conversation. I'm like, yes, this is the work that we really need to be doing for you, helping you look at all of your funding streams, et cetera. So finally, and that's the rest of it, we do plan on meeting monthly. And this committee will be making that recommendation for funding using the 21H funds. And from there, we'll still follow the same path that we always have. It'll come to me or whoever is in this position for approval. And then after that, we have what we call the pink packet. Sometimes you guys don't know our language in that way, but we call it the pink packet. And the pink packet, no award, no money goes out without the pink packet. And the pink packet is her signature, multiple people's signature. Oh, I forgot I had that in there, I guess. So there it is. That is the approval path. That has always been. This is nothing new at all. We don't move forward. That's just how it works at MDE.
Where's that committee of 20 people on this process?
The very first one.
Partnership funding stream committee, so they actually make recommendations on approval, what gets approved and what doesn't. And those are pretty much agreed upon, or are they changed?
No, what's coming out of this committee should probably pretty much be agreed upon. We don't really expect a lot of change. If anything, I would see that the unit supervisor and or me, and maybe even Vanessa in the conversation, is like, well, we got some really good things here, but we're really running out of money. We're probably going to cut back on something. But again, I don't even think that'll happen, because the other thing that we plan on doing in the platform is putting in a selection so they can prioritize. So that way we can, if you can't get everything on there, at least you have put the priority that this is your number one priority. And, you get down here and it's like, this is our 10th priority, and we're good if we don't get that. So hopefully, even with that system of them self-prioritizing, we'll be able to make sure that, there's enough money to go around. Yes?
So I guess my question is the versions on page 3 and 4 that you're talking about, and I do appreciate that the partnership district is evolving, and it's something that we're all learning from and creating and improving upon. I guess my questions are like, what are the timelines from version 1? When was version 1, and then when was version 4 implement version 5 in the final version?
So version 1 was our first cut in 27-18, getting that original allocation out the door. So that was happening, like
February-ish,
January-ish of
January,
2018. And we at some point from the legislature and the budget process started to get appropriate pressure about, you have 6 million there and you're asking for 7 million. You better spend this money down. So and that's always true in state budgeting. They don't like to give you more money if you've got money sitting in the bank. So we were working hard through a couple of those to get, to be appropriate with where the money was going, but also get moving. So then version 2 was kind of that second round in the spring. And then that version 3 was just that last little bit of money that was, in May, June, shortly before Dr. Martin left. And then coming into the next round, because we knew we had 7 million, we knew we needed to formalize. So you see version 4 and version 5 are much more formalized. There's more steps. We had more pieces. They're a little bit different between them because we're still trying to get this process to the exact kind of right level of everything. But this was what we used this fall. Version 4 we used this fall, and now we're working to implement version 5 for this next round.
Okay. And then a couple of questions that I asked last meeting on the 9th of October, and I was sorry I couldn't really hear everything, but I know, as you know, we were getting the complaints or the thoughts that there could be some discrepancy in how the funding was being allocated. And so as I look at this, I guess, some of those things I think you explained, but are we going to be able to tease out these discrepancy? I'm looking at Bridgeport, I'm looking at Saginaw. Those were two that were brought up. And looking at what was requested, looking at the size of the districts. And then I know, we also talked about the improvements in one school. And so we talked about that during the last meeting. I guess if you could give a little bit more insight on that now, if that question makes sense. Some of these things came up. Okay.
So we sent, I sent an email with some more detail about those awards. That's, that has more explicit detail in it, so I think we'd want to kind of walk back through that. But essentially, Bridgeport and Saginaw applied in the first round. They did get additional funding because their request met the criteria, was appropriate, and like we've said, it is challenging because we're so used to formula grants, like you get a big one because you're a big district and you get that's not how this is. So they had activities that met the criteria, keyed to the grants. Because they were the cohort 1 districts who came in round 1 and got approved, their award looks bigger at this point, but all the cohort 1 districts are eligible to apply. More are applying in these subsequent rounds. And then in places where there was a big differential between how much they requested and how much was approved, it was where what came in didn't meet the criteria, didn't meet the guidance, and didn't meet the rubric. So we're working with those districts to right size, to get them to approvable amounts, not even amounts, to get them to approvable requests. A good example is if a district asks for, I think I used this at the other meeting, if a district is asking for money for an assessment system right now, there's $9.5 million in assessment reimbursement on the table in a different strand of money. So we wouldn't want to give them 21H, we'd want them to get the assessment reimbursement funds.
But now that district, with that liaison, you're helping them to understand how you can pick those funds up in some other way of strategy. And so I guess just two more questions. One of them is some of the questions that were raised in the email thread and the questions in the subsequent meeting. Is that what has driven us to begin to think differently as to how we assist districts, how we make sure that we, as well as how we outline these different versions of approval process?
I think that's one piece, but I think the larger piece is just our ongoing work with the districts and recognizing that that the way we rolled it out the first year, we're trying to be committed to continuous improvement too. So I think being asked tough questions helps you think about things in one way. But a lot of these improvements or these modifications were underway even outside of that because we knew we wanted to get that 21H process. It has not up till this point, I think, quite met the spirit of last dollar spends. I mean, it has been last dollar spends, but that really strategic budgeting we want districts doing, that's been a little harder for us to get at. So that's why we kept working at a different process, different supports, different tools, so that they're not, rather than us giving them money that meets the criteria but maybe isn't the most efficient use of the money. That's where I think our first rounds got to met criteria but maybe not most efficient. Now we're really digging into most efficient. So I would say it's a both and. There's certainly, we would have been making quality improvements anyway, but it's good to have a critical look at what you're doing so that you can ask tough questions.
And then, thank you. And then my last question is, one of the questions that I asked last time was the plans that needed to be revised. And then the districts were, I thought that then they were able to get their 21H funding. I thought that wasn't how that link went.
No.
Okay.
Revising their partnership agreements was under a different part of state aid, 22P, that required them to have essentially academic goals and next level of accountability that were specified in the law. If they had not met those requirements, we technically would not have been able to give them their state aid. So a much bigger stick with that one.
Okay, but the 21P.
22P was about your state aid. 21H has nothing to do with your core money, it's just supplemental money. And they didn't actually have to change their plans, they did not have to change their partnership agreement for
They just
21H.
had to do the
They have to get to an
accountability and the-
application So 22P is change your partnership agreement, goals, and next levels of accountability related to state aid, ultimately, if we didn't have compliant plans. 22H is, 21H is application not to do with their they don't have to change anything about their partnership agreement and meeting the criteria of this funding.
Okay, and there was like, I don't know, 13 districts that needed to adjust their plans.
Yeah, I think originally we had about or maybe we had 13 that did not need to, actually it was like 13 that did not need to adjust their
Oh,
plans.
okay, so the ones that did, I thought, this is the question I thought I asked, so I just want to make sure I'm asking that. But the ones that did need to adjust their plans, they were all set and their 22P funding is intact?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
One last question, sorry.
Yes, Michelle.
So what is it that Bridgeport did that was so outstanding that it was, I mean, that they got, I mean, I think per student, right? It's a pretty significant sum of money. So are they doing something innovative, or what are they doing that resulted in such a large award?
Well, again, I would back up to, and if either of you have Bridgeport's application in front of you or know it by heart, you can talk about it, but let me find.
Which one?
This one. These are the 5 things that they have to be doing, something in these. So professional development for teachers, professional development for district or school leadership, increased instructional time, teacher mentors, or something that has a direct positive impact on student academic growth and proficiency. That's true of any of the districts.
Right.
That's what allows you to get 21H.
So but what did they do to get, because it seems a lot of that is pretty standard, except for the innovative, I mean, what did they do that made it?
But I guess what I'm saying is a
such a big
point of approval is not that the district is doing something extraordinary per se. It's that they're doing something that meets the set of criteria that fits with their partnership agreement plan.
More so than others.
Nope, not more so than others, just relative their plan. So there isn't you have to be doing, it's not like we take all 37 partners or 36 partnership districts and rank them and give the top ones more. It is relative, these criteria in your own plan. Have you submitted a 21H application that is an allowable use and relates to your own plan so that we could give you funds? That's true of every district. So every district has an equal opportunity to get 21H. It's not competitive with each other, it's not by formula, and it's not relative each other.
All right. Let it go.
So again, I think if you want to hear more about what Bridgeport Spalding is doing, we can do that, but that isn't, we don't say, is Bridgeport Spalding doing something amazing, let's give them money. We say, is Bridgeport Spalding doing something that meets the criteria and that's in their partnership agreement so that we can approve funds for them. That's what we say for any district.
Right, but they just seem to have been awarded more than others, so so what
Well, they
But
weren't
I'll
in the
let it,
first
I'll let
round.
it go.
And I get you, Michelle, because we want the districts to get whatever
Right.
they need, the resources that they need. But I want to be able to answer the question, why is it that one district got one amount and another one did not? And then are we giving them, because part of the support that we know that these districts need is to tell them to think outside of the box, really think about what it is that you could do and here and the allowable resources or the allowable activities and the resources that you can get. Some district might, for whatever reason, be able to think outside the box, and they might have partnerships that help them to think outside the box a little bit better than others. And then we might see that showing up in scores as well. And so as part of MDE, what our desire is for MDE to help those districts to be able to think in that way and imagine in that way. And so I understand that there's no formula, but giving the districts that necessary support to help them to think like another district or giving them those examples that the other districts have done is a part of it as well.
Yep, we agree. That's what we want to continue doing with the enhanced liaison role and with this partnership approval committee, whatever the acronym is that we came up with. Sorry, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't even.
Partnership funding stream committee is what you're saying, what you both are saying about better supports to coach them, to get more districts to think innovatively, to get them to think strategically about how the money is spent. And again, the Bridgeport and Saginaw did not get more in round one, not much more. I think they were kind of middle of the pack. If you line up cohort 1 and how much they got, they were kind of middle of the pack. Cohorts 2 and 3, when we awarded those, Bridgeport and Saginaw came in, got a second round, which is, cohort 1 is eligible for a second round, just the districts weren't ready to ask yet, I think is part of it. So those numbers will equalize a little bit more, but again, we aren't necessarily focused on getting the numbers equal. We're focused on, I think what you're trying to say, Pam, are districts asking for money to do innovative things? Are they using all their funding efficiently? And are we getting the maximum resources we can into our 37 districts that we've committed to as our highest order of partnership? So I think we're all saying the same thing, that we want to make sure districts are getting access to the money that they need. And
I'll just sneak one more thing in, because as a grant writer, I mean, a lot of times you're writing for, the amount that you're writing for.
Yep.
But as a grant writer, when I'm not, and if I have a neighboring whatever that's getting more, and then I find out, oh, I could have asked for this.
Yep.
That can be just as disheartening as, the formula just not, being unequal. So
you're
I mean,
right. It's an absolute tension. It's been hard the very first time we went to do these funds, we sat with Superintendent Whiston at the time and just debated back and forth. We're like, this is how we should allocate them out, but we don't want to do it that way. So I think this is the harder way for everybody. It's harder for the writers, it's harder for the approval because it is not set. So we want to focus on the TA then. Like, here's the type of things that are approvable and write for those things if you need them in your district, I think but I agree. It would be a little easier if we're like, here's your award because you have X number of students or X number of schools. That's what people are more used to.
And I think we're really hoping, not really hoping, I think we're going to get there with this new committee in place and really, really now gathering all this information on the other financial streams and really having them look at it. I mean, I hope we get to a point that if we came with a minimum number, we still don't have enough dollars to give it to all 33 districts. And so we are hoping that with this funding stream committee and really getting liaisons in there to have, good conversations with them, that they'll start seeing how to kind of redirect the monies they already have. And these requests will become smaller and smaller, much like the Flint superintendent said. He said, if I would have known that, I would not have asked for this much. I would have really focused in on just particular items.
So I know we have a full agenda still, so if we can.
Yep.
We wanted to take a minute. So we are, for everyone's long-term planning, this is the process by which we're going through that 18-month review. We're giving it to you today at a high level, and then we're planning a longer discussion in December when we have more time, and also so you have a couple chances to hear about it, reflect on it, and think about it.
And we're also hoping, we have our last one, I think the first week in February, so we're also hoping for the February meeting, we'll be able to give you a nice follow-up of what happened, who settled where, so on and so forth.
Go through this, or is Dan doing this?
No.
Okay, go.
So it's been about 18 months since our initial partnership agreements were developed. And so to that end, we have this thing that's called Review of Goal Attainment. And so we have another acronym, IGA, because in education, we love having our acronyms. But this is a collaborative review for each of our original 8 districts on their partnership agreements, on where they sit in terms of the goals that they placed in there. There's some connection to 22P that was brought up earlier, and the only connection is that now they have to have a measurable academic outcome and some accountability measures. And so those are part of that. And I only mention that from the standpoint that it's connected. 22P does not govern this process. This process is something that the department has developed, including some outside stakeholders. And it's built inside the tenets of the partnership agreement, which you saw up there. What you have in front of you now is it's a little flow chart. This is just part of the overall process. So in this entire flow chart, in the upper left-hand corner, we have identification of partnership districts. You're not able to see it, but in the very bottom right, we're at 36 months. So the diamond, or technically my former math students would say is a rhombus, where it says collaborative determination there, kind of in the upper right-hand corner, that's where we sit. So we're only 4 geometric shapes into this process at this point in time. And we use the terminology collaborative determination because this is meant to be collaborative with the department, the district, and all of their partners. And so in this process, we sat down and we met with some internal and external representatives about what does it mean for a school or district if they're meeting their goals? What terms do we even use to describe that? And so where we landed was this term, these 3 terms, policy level descriptors of on track, off track with progress, and off track with limited progress. The process that we used here is really no different than you might go through if you were determining whether in an assessment, whether a student is proficient or not. What does that mean? What does that look like? What characteristics does that student have? So the same thing here for the district and specifically schools. What characteristics do they show or demonstrate to be on track? Or if they're not on track, where do they fall? And the other 2 areas that we came up with was off track with progress and off track with limited progress.
And remember that one of Superintendent Whiston's commitments to all the districts, but these 8 ones originally, was set high goals. I'd rather have you set high goals and miss them by a little than set low goals and make them. And that we are looking for this concept of substantially on track or moving in the right direction. So the partnership district team has been working to quantify that into a process that we can do collaboratively with the districts and have those descriptors that Dan just showed you to take a kind of a big idea and put it into an actual process.
So at its core, this is based upon the goals that each of the districts developed for themselves. And at a very high level, we looked at what does it mean, where do they need to be in terms of meeting their goals. We have some districts that have numerous goals, dozens of goals. We have other districts that have very few goals. And so in that process, with some internal and external stakeholders, we came up with business rules, which is my understanding we'll be sharing at the next board meeting to provide you a little bit more detail. And we're going to have conferences in January on site at the districts where districts will invite any of their partners that they want to invite. There'll be folks from the department, and we'll sit down and we'll go through their goals that they have submitted evidence for. They will have completed a self-assessment whether or not they think they've met the individual goals or not met those individual goals. The department will have also gone through that same process to see if they've met those goals. And then depending upon the outcome of that, decisions would be made collaboratively in terms of what would be next steps for that school and or district in terms of where they need to go.
And then as our last quick update, and as you see, Kyle Grant is not with us today. He's representing the department out in California at the Council of Chief State School Officers meeting. He got to go while we got to stay, so we can all give him hassle about that the next time we see him.
Where is he?
Where?
Not with the
Long Beach.
Long Beach.
Is that right?
He's
Yeah.
in Long Beach,
Far enough south.
Yes.
California.
Yes. So yes, he's in the sun and not near any fires, so that's good. So Benton Harbor update, just at a high level, working with Dr. Herrera and the team down there to continue to focus on school safety. They have a number of things they've put in place to ensure that kids have a safe environment to be in. And then broader than just school safety, which can get a little bit only about, the physical safety, the broader conversation is around the culture and climate at the district and how to ensure that kids have a supportive environment in which to learn. And then continued work on their fiscal. You probably saw in the news, they've been released from consent agreement status from Treasury. So that is positive for them. But it does not mean that we need to take our attention away from their fiscal status and what needs to happen there. And then staffing remains just an ongoing point. And this is true of a lot of our partnership districts, just getting and keeping high quality staff and supporting them in challenging work. So do you have anything to add, Sheila, by any chance?
Not to Benton Harbor and not to the
And I will
partnership
add,
districts
so Dr. Herrera held his first superintendent advisory. He asked our office for some support, so we sent him kind of a neutral facilitator to help with the process, and it was very positive. This is an advisory of his choice, and it's all community-based. And he actually, at that, I think it was like last Wednesday, and there was a nice article, he also announced how he was working with us, the department, and being able to kind of normalize staffing pay. So he announced that kind of pay raise in a sense. So very positive.
Questions? I see Tom has a question.
Yeah, going back to the review of goal attainment, and I've probably said this before, and I guess Peter Green reminded us that, scores can go up if we just do nothing else but just test prep and, teach to the test, and that would be damaging. I think everybody would agree. So I hope and I assume it is, but I hope that that it's a safe space. Didn't think I'd ever use that here. That it's a safe space for during the review process and these structured conferences and stuff, for people to really say, look, we're doing this and we think we're increasing our scores, but you know what? We may be harming kids in this area and we're just concerned about that. I hope that they can vocalize that and verbalize that, and because, I'm mindful that this whole process is what the governor and Brian worked out so that we're not shutting the schools down back a year and a half ago. So I'm glad that we're going through this process, and I'm glad that, there's resources being made. I mean, just thinking about where we could have been, this is so much better. And I'm thankful for it, but I still just want to make sure, but it's new to us. It's all uncharted territory. So I really hope that they can say, look, we're pretty sure our test scores are going to go up. But, what's the cost of that? Is there any cost? And let's just really be real and make sure that we're just doing this right,
We're doing it right, and we're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Pam?
I'm going to ask the question that Tom usually asks, and I thought that he was going to ask again. Is, you have these new standards, these new RGA standards, and Vanessa, you've said repeatedly that you don't see anyone falling into the off track with limited progress, I believe.
So, and every time I answer this, it's the same way. Without a formal review, no one outside of Benton Harbor, who has been in a different governance structure with us now. No one that we know now, we would say, is off track with limited progress. So the limited progressness is not enough that we would be confident to say that it's there. Now, I think to the safe space point, if that's where a district is at as we go through 18 months, we need to have a hard conversation about that so that we can, get some progress. But no, we think that we really believe going into this that our districts are either on track or off track with progress for the most part. But if we do find someone who's off track with limited progress, we want to be honest about that and not.
Right, and so that's where I was going to go with this, because I think one of the questions that Tom has asked and I've asked is just no surprises. So we've had 18 months now. So now that we have this system in place, this goal attainment, I'm just hopeful that it's not something that then is able to say, okay, you're off track with limited progress because now we have this rubric or we have this thing in place to be able to show that.
Right.
But that
I take your point. No, I mean, that's not it's a good point. Like now we can measure it so we can tell you you're off track.
Yeah, after 18
Right.
months.
It's a good point. I think that's why, Dan and Luana were emphasizing the collaborative nature of it and the discussion and the nature around it. So I think it's possible that in this conversation, if we find out someone is off track with progress, the conversation or without progress, with limited progress, the conversation that go along with that is, why did we not notice this until now?
Because what were we, at 18 months, what are we bound to? Because 18 months was a marker, so.
Yep, in theory, if a district is not making sufficient progress at 18 months, their next levels of accountability could be activated.
Oh.
It has always been, when Brian used to talk about it, he would say, 18 months isn't a long time to show turnaround, but you have to be moving in the right direction by then, or else you're not going to get anywhere in 36 months.
Okay.
And remember, we don't want to let another 3 years, 4 years, 5 years go with kids in schools where there isn't progress. So,
which I totally agree with. I just don't want it to be that we, MDE, did not, 18 months, we strung them along thinking
that's a good point.
that things were well, but now all of a sudden we put this wonderful system in place to better be able to measure, and then at the 18 months, that system's working, but not working for that,
Yeah, I think the other thing that will help with that is that the review of their goal attainment is about their goals. So as opposed to us saying, we're going to go look at all of your fill in the blank scores, and if you're below a cut, you're off track, which is sometimes in the past how we've talked about progress in high stakes ways. There's a lot of reasons for that. This is built to their own goals, which they meet on and track over time. So that surprise element that sometimes has been felt by districts before should be less. It's not new goals, it's not new data, it's not new conversations. It's their goals, their data, their conversations. But I think your point is excellent.
Okay.
We want to.
Because you get what I'm saying.
I do
Again,
absolutely get what you're saying.
This isn't our first time meeting, but we'll have a tool to
Yes,
measure.
it is the first time we've had the tool.
And most of their goals at 18 months are process-oriented, which, just to differentiate a little bit, they're not necessarily what we would say is an assessment. So they're very adult process-oriented, so.
And I get all of that, but that process has been going on for 18 months. So
Fair.
that we
That's a fair
get to the
point.
end of the process and then tell them
Yep.
is my concern. But I get what you're saying.
All right, Vanessa, Luana, and Dan, thank you very much. Board, thank you for your insights, your comments, and your suggestions. Moving on to the regular meeting agenda, we have the approval of the State Board of Education minutes. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular and committee of the whole meeting of October 9th, 2018?
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to reports of the co-presidents. We have co-presidents Dr. Z and Cassandra Aldrich. Reports?
None at this time.
Just a couple things. One, it was, it was exciting to see the number of people that came out and voted in the election in November. I read that it was 4.3 million voters. It's the highest turnout in a midterm in 50 years. So if you're excited about civic engagement like I am, you were probably really, really excited to see that. These elections traditionally have not generated a huge turnout. So to see that many people come out and cast their ballot and made their voice be heard, it was I was really excited to see that. It ended up being a 57.5% turnout, which for a midterm election is almost unheard of. So thank you to everyone who came out and voted. I want to express the same thing you did earlier today to Richard and to Eileen. Our thank you for serving on the board for all of these years. Richard, I know the election didn't turn out the way that you were hoping, but we do appreciate all the work that you've done over the last 8 years, and Eileen as well. I was excited. I was invited by the Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals to see a presentation on the PSAT, and I was very impressed with what I saw. This assessment really allows for tremendous feedback for parents, students, teachers, and school districts. And it does something that we've asked that I know we can't necessarily get from the MSTEP, but it allows them to actually see the questions after the test is taken, to be able to diagnose how many students were successful with the questions, how many were not, and really, I mean, it hones in on a question by question level, which to me is really important, because at the end of the day, I think it's more important that students learn the content than whether or not we've caught them being able to take a test or not. So I'll just say, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at this, it's something I would encourage all of the other board members to do, because it really is impressive, and the amount of feedback that and assessment that is allowed with this, I was really impressed with that. And then finally, I attended the National Philanthropy Day dinner last week, and the Weissers were honored by the University of Michigan Dearborn for their philanthropy. And I know you weren't able to be there, but your husband made a very nice speech.
Good to hear that report.
So congratulations on that. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Cassandra. Next is the report of the interim state superintendent, and today I have a PowerPoint presentation to share with you. I'm going to highlight my school and district visits the last month, as well as conference attendance and presentation. So beginning with early October, on October 10th, I was in the Bangor School District to attend the Bay Aranac ISD-wide Professional Learning Day for all of their educators, and I had an opportunity to hear George Corus talk about what teachers and educators should be providing in the classroom so that learning is relevant and meaningful to students. He was a very engaging speaker. And then I also had the honor of delivering the luncheon address. In mid-October, I was in Battle Creek. I was there to visit 3 school districts, one of which was Lakeview School District, where the Lakeview High School Library received the Model School Library 21st Century Award. The ceremony began with a performance by the school choir, and then there was a presentation of one of the library's innovative programs called History Unfolded, and this is one of the programs for which they were recognized. Then we visited a coding class, an AP biology class, and a theater arts class, and Lakeview School District has much to be proud of. My next stop was at Gull Lake District. I visited classrooms in their home partnership program, had a tour of their Gateway Academy, which is an alternative high school, and then I visited classrooms and talked with students and staff at Gull Lake High School. And I would say that Gull Lake School District lives their mission statement to meet the needs of all of their students. The third district visited in this area was Delton Kellogg District. Laura Chang was there with me for this visit. We started our morning in the high school, where we met with staff and some students, and we heard from students about their robotics program. And then we went to a site visit where the building trades class was building a 1,500 square foot home. And yes, that is me with a nail gun contributing to the construction of the home. The next stop was in the middle school, where we visited with students in their classrooms, and we ended our morning in the kindergarten classroom, where I had the true privilege and the wonderful experience of reading to kindergarten students. Towards the end of October, I visited Muskegon Community College's main campus, where I had an opportunity to tour the college and to speak with staff, as well as to visit classrooms such as respiratory therapy, math and physical science, and automotive. I also toured their brand-new Health and Wellness Center that is slated to open in January of 2019. It is going to be state-of-the-art. Then I toured their Technology Center, which is located in downtown Muskegon. The Lakeshore Fab Lab is part of the MIT International Fab Lab community, and it truly is a fabulous site. Muskegon Community College has a very strong partnership with local school districts to support student enrollment in early middle college and dual enrollment. About a third of their student population is made up of high school students who come for either one of those programmings. Representative Sabo joined me in the tour of the Technology Center. And then at the end of October, I visited 2 school districts in Macomb County. I spent the morning in the Van Dyke District where I toured their CTE Center. And then I visited Lincoln Elementary School where you see these 2 lovely 5th grade students who gave me a tour around their school. I visited the district's Success Academy, which provides blended and online learning to non-traditional students. And the district's mission statement, every student, every day, no matter what, is evident throughout the district. In the afternoon, I visited Briarwood Elementary School in the Warren Woods District, where I saw a reading workshop in a 4th grade classroom, STEM activities in a 2nd grade classroom, and observed a teacher providing a reading recovery lesson to a 1st grade student. And Senator Beda and Representative Churkin joined me in the visit to Briarwood. So now on to some award ceremonies at conferences honoring our late Superintendent Brian Whiston. At the fall conference last month, Michigan Advanced Ed presented their Excellence in Education Award to Brian. This award recognizes individuals who demonstrate unparalleled leadership in promoting and advancing education. And as you can see, Brian's wife, Beth, was present to accept this award. Then at the annual NASB conference, Brian was recognized with the Policy Leader of the Year Award. This award recognizes individuals who have had a significant impact on education policy and the education system. Lupe and Dr. Z also attended the NASB conference and the award ceremony, and once again, Beth was present to accept this prestigious award. And additionally, this past month, I had an invitation to address the Michigan School business officials at their fall conference in Lansing. And also, I was the dinner speaker at the MAISA, or Michigan Association of Intermediate School Administrators, their fall general membership meeting in Lansing. So those are some of the highlights of my school and district visits and conference attendance during the last month. And that leads us to the next item on the agenda, which is the report from our Michigan Teacher of the Year. Welcome to Laura Chang. She is our 2018 Michigan Teacher of the Year. Laura is a K-5 reading and math interventionist at the Vicksburg Community School District, and we are so happy to have her at the table again this month to share her report with us.
Thank you. And I just want to extend a thank you again for allowing us this time each month to share some great news about what's happening around the state. I appreciate that time, especially in a busy packed schedule like today. All right. So in September, the board reviewed MSTEP results statewide, and early literacy is an ongoing point of concern for our state. I'd like to update the board on something that I feel is special happening in West and Southwest Michigan revolving around literacy. So I want to talk to you about a project that I feel will really make a difference and that we can all learn from and seek to spread statewide. It's called the HILL Project. That stands for High Impact Leadership. So this is a $12.5 million federal grant from the U.S. Department of Education, and it was awarded just last year to Western Michigan University. This is the largest research grant ever awarded to WMU, and it's designed to improve early literacy in Michigan schools. The funding was awarded to combine the best of WMU's educational leadership program with West Michigan's Reading Now Network and the GELN Essential Practices in Literacy. That's the General Education Leadership Network. Basically, it's federal funding to scale up these 3 leading practices around early literacy, all from right here within our great state. Some of you might know Dr. Reeves or Dr. Shen at WMU. They're the principal researchers on this project. I speak regularly with Kyle Mayer from the Ottawa ISD, who's also a member of the management team with this project. This project is focused on improving leadership in school buildings around early literacy. It serves large urban districts like Grand Rapids Public Schools and Kalamazoo Public Schools, and also small rural districts like Ionia and my own district, Vicksburg. In all, 76 individual school buildings are currently being served by this project, and they were selected based on current literacy achievement and high poverty rates. They're all located in West and Southwest Michigan because that's where the superintendents in 20 counties had previously committed joining together as the Reading Now network. And you'll see those listed on the front of that sheet. So, what the project does, in its simplest terms, is provide 4 distinct supports to these 76 different high-poverty schools. The first support are instructional rounds. Teams of literacy experts seek to understand the needs one school building at a time. You might equate this to doctors who do medical rounds throughout a hospital. It's a team of doctors that go through, make recommendations, but the same thing happens here. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. This is not a curriculum or a program that gets adopted. Every building in this cohort gets a rounds visit that helps them understand their strengths and their weaknesses with respect to the essential practices in literacy. So this is a instructional rounds visit at Ludington schools just last month. The second support that's offered to these schools is funding. Each school gets approximately $20,000 over 2.5 years to implement the work that was identified through the instructional rounds process. These are pictures from one school. It was identified in this building that high-interest text was not available to students. Just one area recognized, teachers were able to use that money and immediately put more books into the hands of students in their classrooms. The third support is a helper, a facilitator. This is someone who comes to the building once a week to support ongoing efforts in literacy leadership within the school. These are dynamic facilitators. Many are former teachers and principals themselves. And then the fourth support, the fourth component is professional development. Summits for teachers and principals and other professional learning opportunities bring the best professional development to these schools related to leadership and to literacy. The project has a timeline of 2.5 years to make a statistically significant impact on elementary literacy results using the M-STEP as the measure. And if successful, the grant will be extended for an additional 2.5 years, and an additional 76 schools will be served. You'll find those potential schools on the back of that handout that I gave you. I want to tell you about this little girl. She struggled with reading over the past 2 years. Thanks to the new partnership at our school, new training for her teacher, new books in her classroom that she's interested in and excited about. She can't put her book down. Her mom shared these pictures with me in the car, in the grocery store, at the dinner table. This is a child who fought her mom when it was time to read at home. Now her mom has to fight with her to get her to put her book down when it's time for bed or time to leave the house. These are real results. So as the Michigan Teacher of the Year, here are a few reasons why I'm so optimistic about the Hill Project and why I chose to share the story with you. First of all, this work of the Hill Project honors and respects teachers and principals for where they are currently. Rather than telling schools what to do and demanding compliance, this project and all of its members seeks first to understand and comes alongside the teachers to help us. The project starts with the assumption that all teachers are working their hardest already, that they don't need one more accountability measure or to be evaluated into compliance. The project simply asks, how can we help you to deeply embed the essential practices in literacy? And then, true to their word, they provide that help. There are 20 counties all working together like never before in this project. This comes from the Reading Now network. When the project supports the work in a single school, it's not just WMU or one district or even a few, or even like the nearby ISD working together. Literally, you will see literacy leaders from 100 miles away driving out to support the work in the schools and not in neighboring districts. Third, the teachers and principals I know that are involved in this project, they're embracing the work. It's difficult, it's different from typical school improvement that's so often a compliance measure, but that's not always so deeply meaningful. This project, though, is engaging educators as true partners in the improvement of schools, and I believe that enthusiasm is a sign of great things to come for our kids. So, to wrap up my part of this presentation, I have a few suggestions for our state board. First of all, you might consider inviting the Hill Project for a State Board of Ed presentation sometime, and also bring along teachers and principals who are participating in the project. You might attend an upcoming Learning Summit or come along on one of the instructional rounds days, the visit of a school to see how each school is given this unique set of recommendations to improve literacy results for children. And finally, you might familiarize yourself with the work of the Hill Project by visiting their website or contacting a member of the management team, Dr. Shen, Dr. Reeves, Dr. Kylemeyer. I believe the design of this project really has implications for how we think about continuous school improvement and educator evaluation in our state moving forward. And I want to transition now to Wendy Tenney. She's our Regional Teacher of the Year for Region 3, and she has a few things to share specific to her region.
Well, actually, I wanted to share specific to my subject because it's not one that's talked about a lot, but I think it has a lot of benefits. Part of why I got to be the Regional Teacher of the Year is the work that I've done with this group. This is part of my orchestra. It's called the Fusion Rock Orchestra, and they do modern music. It's a student-led group. I think music educators have a unique opportunity that we don't have as much oversight. And I think that teachers, when they're given some freedom with their students, can take a lot of really great directions that can really impact students' lives in unique ways. And music is something that sometimes can get marginalized with all of the obvious bigger needs with literacy and instruction. But I think that it's good for you to just be aware. I can bring to your attention that the orchestra programs in our state are growing and expanding exponentially. My program in the 15 years I've been in Lowell went from 12 students to nearly 400. So in a recession, most of that. So I just wanted to thank you that part of our Top 10 in 10 initiative lists that music education is important, and I want to thank you for valuing that. I can attest to that if I had more time with you today, but I just wanted to say that my next steps are kind of going out and trying to encourage schools that don't have orchestra programs, because that's definitely an inequity in our state. And there's been work going on in my county growing orchestra programs and supporting the programs that we do have to have growth. It's been difficult to deal with the fact that my class sizes have been up to 80 students at a time, and trying to get more staffing for that. And then also, I'm just trying to find ways to encourage other teachers, because we have a shortage of people qualified to teach orchestra in Michigan, and the music ed programs have been cutting the people who teach those. We haven't been able to find replacements. Michigan State University no longer has a string specialist to train orchestra teachers, and University of Michigan is the only one that I know of that actually has a string specialist teaching music education. So I've been trying to get the word out about that and encourage people, and also connecting programs like Grand Rapids Symphony has a Mosaic program to encourage students of color to be involved in music and support them, and I would love to connect those people into the teacher prep programs as well, because I think that that's something I definitely have a heart for, that we need more representation within our teaching staff.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. Any questions from board members? Thank you, both of you.
I need a minute.
Okay. We need just a moment to make a call. We're going to move on to the next item on our agenda. We are calling Ray in a second. We have.
Welcome to AT&T's teleconference service. Please enter your access code, followed by the pound sign. To join the conference, there are 2 participants on the call, including you. You are joining your conference as the host. For a menu of available commands, press *#.
So the next item on today's agenda is a discussion on the state superintendent search. Our co-presidents Dr. Zeile and Dr. Ulbrich will lead this discussion. In attendance are staff from Ray and Associates, Inc., the research firm who will assist the State Board of Education with the process for selecting the next state superintendent. Present is Brian Ray, president of Ray and Associates, and Ricardo Medina, the regional search associate from Bridgeport, Michigan, and I believe on telephone is Michael Collins, the regional search associate from Columbus, Ohio. Welcome. Glad to have you with us. And Michael, glad to have you on the phone.
Thank you. Delighted to be with you.
I'll now turn this portion of the agenda over to Cassandra and Dr. Z.
First question, has the contract been finalized? Are we all set with that through DTMB?
You agree?
All right, good. So we can knock that one off our list. So welcome to back, because you guys have worked with us in the past on a search before. And as you know, we have begun the process. We did already review the state superintendent job description, and that has been approved by the board. And so we're kind of interested to hear from you what you think the next steps are, what the timeline's going to look like, and what you need from us.
Well, again, thank you for having us back. We really appreciate it and look forward to it. If you want to start with the timeline, we did in the materials that we first sent over to you, we had a timeline in there that we kind of presented to you as an option. However, we see that you have your own timeline, and that is fine. We can actually, work with our staff in our office and kind of make it to your timeline if that would be something that you would want.
If you look at our timeline, ours is more expedited than the one that you have. Ours would finish off in February. Yours finishes off in April. Be a longer period of time to allow us to breathe a little bit.
Right. And it also, as you know, we have 2 new members coming on the
Yes.
board in January, so it would be good to give them, I think, a little extra time to get familiar with the process and what we need to do. So I think that would make a lot of sense personally. Any other thoughts for the board?
Well, simply that one of the things that one of the considerations was that a superintendent would likely finish out an academic year before beginning with us. That doesn't leave us a whole lot of time. If the person turns it down, we have to go back to the drawing board, and maybe your advice is needed if we need to think of that differently.
Yeah, it's usual and customary, for superintendents to start on the fiscal year, July 1. So most people, as they're applying and interviewing for jobs, it's with the understanding that they'll give notice to their district, and if you appoint somebody in April, they'll have a few months to give notice and then to start July 1. And also sometimes they're able to contract with you for some days before that.
So our adopted later timeline would be workable. No, you don't foresee any problems with that?
No.
If I also may add, if the superintendent is selected, that is a current.
I'm sorry, there's Mike?
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. I was just going over a bump. Go ahead.
Really
good connection. Going over a bump?
If the superintendent is selected who is a current superintendent in Michigan, that superintendent would have to leave their position and then not work. If the person is retiring from public education in Michigan, that person would not be able to work for the department or for their district for 30 days. So we need to consider that if that case should pose itself to us.
Okay.
Should go on to our next topic. So determining the input process, who all is going to be involved? Are you going to have stakeholders Are you gonna reach out? What does your vision look like for that?
Say involved, do you mean in the selection process or?
I mean, in like reaching out to your constituent groups, your meetings, and finding out who your public wants to see in the next superintendent.
You're speaking about stage 2?
Yes, yep, it would be under stage 2 in our timeline.
Can I just ask what that would look like? I mean, if we say we want a lot, what that would look like, and then if we say no, I mean, those constituent groups talk to us, and that informs how we will vote and how we are looking. So, what if it's very little, and what if it's a whole lot? How would that impact what you do?
You want to answer that, or should I?
Okay. When we do a normal K-12 or pre-K-12 school district superintendent, there's normally stakeholder groups, or what we refer to as stakeholder groups. It's usually like their teachers association, their classified employees association, principals as a stakeholder group, the parents in the community, business people, and I mean, those are some of the stakeholder groups that we normally meet with. And we'll come in for a day or two and schedule them all day long.
What if they tell? I'm sorry for interrupting. What are they informing you? Like, we want them to see. We want them to be able to understand this area, and this is real important to us.
Okay. The questions that we normally ask are: what are the qualities and characteristics that you want to see in your next superintendent? What are the strengths of a school district, or what are the strengths of the state board, or what are the strengths of the state of Michigan that's going to make it an attractive place for us to recruit a superintendent? Those are some of the kinds of questions. And Mike,
if I may chime, yeah, thanks, Ricardo. So, ladies and gentlemen, I spent 8 years where you sit. So I sat on the State Board of Education in Ohio as an elected member, and Ray and Associates did 2 searches for us. During those times when we talk about stakeholders, what makes it a little different is that those typically, what Ray did with us is we gave him, I think, 12 to 14 state education associations that would represent our constituency. So it's obviously your likely suspects: school board, superintendents, principals, teachers association, the classified association leader. This is all their leadership, the PTA, the state PTA, et cetera. And they would take, similarly what Ricardo was suggesting, those sets of questions, and they would respond. And that takes a while. I mean, it's at least an hour interview with each group, 45 minutes to an hour. And what that does is give a framework to what they would like to see you look for, which begins to build the profile of what, in fact, is going to be written out that you are looking for. So you take all that into account as you deliberate and come up with a description, definitions of what you're looking for. And that is brought out by the 3 of us sitting with each of you individually. So we take all of that together, and that becomes the profile of the candidate that the state of Michigan would like to see apply. Is that helpful?
Yes.
And we have done this where I think one of our largest groups was like 4 days. And normally we do 1 to 2 days in our contract for these kind of constituent events. But if you need us here for 3 days, we can do that. Ricardo can be on, in one area. Mike can be on another area. I could be in another area, and we can be doing these multiple at a time.
But I guess, I apologize again, but I guess what I'm wondering is then the effect of that will be, or the result of that will be what, when we get it, Mrs. Jones candidate, these 12 groups she has the characteristics these 12 groups wanted. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that. So how does it actually affect what we'll end up seeing or what you'll bring to us? It seems a little bit nebulous to me. I don't quite understand how exactly that will impact what you give to us or recommend. I know you're not going to recommend a candidate, but as you help us vet the candidates, how will that inform?
These meetings are like information gathering for us, and they're very valuable because each constituent group gives us input from their perspective about what they're looking for, or they share with us what the issues are in the community or the state, of Michigan, anything that's unique to them. And they also tell us the kind of person that they're looking for in their next superintendent.
So that will help you.
Yeah, and we kind of,
as you, put out the request for people to
it helps us
look
with
at-
the
okay.
recruitment
Okay.
aspect
Right.
of
When
the job.
people have questions
Okay.
and they get us on the phone,
Okay.
we can revert back to
I
some
understand.
of those. Yep.
And if I may comment, it also means that those influential groups have a stake in the ultimate decision and are more likely to support the individual if they've had some input.
Correct. It is very impactful at the state level, I can assure you that.
Okay.
So I guess we would look to you and ask, who would you like us to reach out and talk to?
Is that something you need right now, or is that something we can?
It
get
is not
to?
something that we need right now. In fact, we can give you an example of some groups that we have reached out to in the past, and we can pass that along to possibly Marilyn.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Great.
Okay, wonderful. Great. With that being said, and I mentioned Marilyn's name, who will be the consultant's contact person if we need anything? Is that going to be Marilyn, or is it going to be something that
I would
somebody
think
else?
Maryland.
Okay.
When you say need anything, what do you mean?
We, like, for example, we're going to send the information that we just talked about to Maryland so it can get distributed to you. If we need to get you any information, we just go through one voice.
Okay. Yep.
And with that being said, sometimes we have a board contact as well. We can run everything through Maryland, or is there a specific board contact you would wish?
Well, considering we're gonna have a turnover in the board, I would think everything should go through Maryland for now until we know, next year who the executive committee is.
Okay.
Yes. We develop a promotional, flyer, a brochure, and each one of those is specific to the school district or to the organization that we're doing a superintendent search for. And we prepare those, we can prepare those for you, or if you have an advertising branch or a communications office, sometimes they're the ones that work on that, but our staff is very prepared and willing to do that for you and give you samples. You can bring it, we'll share it with you through Maryland, and a committee of the board members can approve it.
And what this flyer is used for is if we go, for example, to AASA, if we're going to a state convention, or if ALIS or NAPSI has something going on, we can go ahead and get that into the hands of somebody that might be interested in the job. Also, when they click to find out more about the position on our website, to click to apply for the job is on the left, and to download that flyer is on to the right. Now, we created the flyer for you last time. It is something that we still have in our office. We save all that. We can go ahead and forward that to Marilyn and see if anything is going to be changed or needed to be changed, or different photos or whatnot, and we can work with her and then have that final draft back to you all for final approval.
Okay, and I'm assuming you'll incorporate the job description that we've already approved?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
That sounds good if you could.
So that works. Okay.
The next piece that we wanted to go ahead and discuss is the approval of the online application. We have a copy of the application. We actually.
hand it out?
Yeah, we can hand it out. It's a very basic application. It's the same application that we used last time with you all. Marilyn, if you want to go ahead and, that one little piece that's in there, that's vital to.
The confidentiality? That's in there. I had mentioned to them that that needs to be in the application in order to request going into closed session, and that is in that application in case you want.
Okay, good.
And that is on that last page, I believe in that second box. So there's nothing out of the ordinary here.
Yes, Michelle.
We were, we had discussed wanting to have a diverse pool as possible.
Yes.
And I don't know if you have a strategy to do that.
We have a little piece right here we want to go ahead and hand out. Just so you know, doing these searches all across the country, the state, such as Ohio, in the past, we did the state of Alabama last year as well. So diversity is absolutely important to us as well. We place more women and minorities than any other search firm in the country. And we're pretty proud of that. In fact, 40% of our associates and staff are women or minorities. So it's something we really go after. Also in the sense that Ricardo right here is I think, founding member of ALIS, which is the Latino Administrators organization across the country. And we affiliate ourselves very well with NAPSE, which is the Black School Educators across the country as well. In fact, Dr. Gloria Davis, who works for us and I believe is vice president of NAPSE right now, she was at the conference, and I believe it just wrapped up on Friday, I believe, this weekend. So it's a very valuable piece, and I'm sure it's something that we will, when we have discussions with you, learn more about.
We've been very successful at recruiting a diverse candidate pool. So when we come to the board and share the candidates, we make sure that it's going to be a diverse pool of candidates. So we've been very successful in that regard in previous searches.
Eileen?
On page, well, so much for that. On the application, the top of what looks like page 3 says that in addition to the following information, a thorough background check may be made at the option of the employer.
Yes.
So back in the early 2000s, we had a candidate who ended up serving prison time, who was to be our finalist, just before we found that out, but only through the grapevine.
Right.
In this day and age of falsified credentials, even though candidates should be known to you, you're the kind of firm that's been in the field for many years, I think just as a protection mechanism, it should say should or will.
Yeah, so, okay. Well, I will have you know, when we get down to the finalists, those final 2 or 3, we actually contract, it used to cost you all money, but we actually take that burden on right now. But we contract with a third party who actually goes and does all of that background work for you. I mean, criminal, bankruptcy, everything that you absolutely want to know about that individual they look at. And I can actually send Marilyn all the things that they actually check out. I mean, they do more than just Google. We do the Google stuff. They do the stuff that we can't do.
So then I would just want people to know you're going to do that.
Sure.
I think that's fair warning. The odds of somebody applying who couldn't pass that is this big, but there's no point in tempting people to try.
Yeah. We don't want any embarrassment for you. We don't want any embarrassment for us. So we can make that known.
And as a
and if I
go ahead,
Ricardo.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. The only other thing I would add to that, because you want us to make sure it's known, it'll not only be known to the candidates, but if you, now that you're making the announcement about now, I think you've already announced it, that Ray, that we have the search, but it's some kind of update or whatever communique comes out of your state board meeting these 2 days, when you do our part, you also can put in there a reminder, one sentence about the fact that the finalists will be, we'll go through very thorough background checks, et cetera, however you word that. Because what that does is have it come from you, and the state reads what you put out.
What I was going to mention to you is that as a person who's applied and been hired as a superintendent in various districts, we are used to, if we're a finalist, that there's going to be a criminal background check. Most of the time, we're doing also credit checks on individual candidates. I mean, and then also when we're in the application phase and looking at the candidate pool, We assign those to individual candidates or individual representatives like myself. I'll call Ryan and I'll say, Ryan, is there anything in your background, your history that we need to know about that might prove to be an embarrassment to you, to us, or to the board? And if they're not honest with us when we're doing our own vetting of those candidates, then we'll come to you and say, this candidate looked really good on paper, but when we asked him this question, he or she was not honest with us, and this is what we found out. So we feel that we are the best in the business at doing the vetting. Not that, something can't get through, but we have a lot of systems in place to prevent it from happening.
By the time these people come in front of you, they will be who they say they are. And for the things that we can't check out, that's why we contract with that other firm.
Can I, just a little side note, we were doing I retired in California as a superintendent. I was doing superintendents in the San Francisco Bay Area. We had a candidate who actually came from the state of Michigan, who had a very, very beautiful resume, beautiful stuff that that person had said that they had done. And because I had been a superintendent in the state of Michigan, I called a couple superintendents. I called Tim Quinn, Michigan Leadership Institute, and I asked, what do you know about this person? He sounds really good on paper, but is there anything else I need to know? And I also called a couple county superintendents, and I was able to get information that, that ended up disqualifying that person. So that's just one example of the lengths that we go to get that kind of information. And because there's 160 of us across the country, we will call somebody in New York or Ohio or Indiana or wherever they're at and say, Ryan, what do you know about this person? Or do you know somebody that knows this person?
It's great seeing things that you can Google and read online, but when you have like 5 or 6 associates that are in that state that have their ear to the ground that can tell you things that are not in print, that's valuable. Yes.
A couple of questions to Michelle's point around diversity. This has happened, as a matter of fact, it just happened a few months ago in a community where I was invited to, there was a candidate who was interviewing, and they brought some community members to surround that candidate. Do you all do anything like that? Because when I think about diversity, I also think about making sure that candidates can feel that it's an environment that they want to be a part of. And I don't know where in the process. I mean, it might be when you get down to, I can't remember how we're tiering our system, but it's not unheard of. I mean, is that something that you all may consider doing? Do you understand?
Yeah, like a town hall event.
It doesn't even have to be a town hall.
Okay.
I mean, it can be a small group of educators. It might be folks from MDE or just to speak to environment that is that someone wants to be a part of, that a candidate may want to be a part of.
We have done that across the country in the past. We've done it all kinds of different ways. Maybe like a group of 10 or 15 people. We never let those individuals rank or rate them. What we do is we have candidate impression forms that those individuals can fill out. And then when we come and talk with you, we can hand you those candidate impression forms and you can review them.
And it's not even, it's more so that the candidate
learn
feels that
a little
this
bit
is
about
an
you.
environment that they want to be a part of. It's not for that group of people to rank the candidate. But there are some good candidates that we may have out there, and they may question whether or not they want to be a part of an organization. I know as a part of, and I know that this has happened in particular cultural communities, because it may be out of the norm to see that culture in that organization. So, I mean, and just making sure that they feel that it's a fit. So we do, if we get candidates that apply, but we want to help them to make it to the next level, and they don't take themselves out of that process.
Let me be very clear. This is your search.
Okay.
However you want to do it, we will do it. So if that's something that you're interested in as a board, then we will help you with whatever you need.
Okay, and so maybe that's something we'll talk about then. And then the other thing here on the application, like I see school district, does any of this that's on this first page, does it, I mean, because this makes me think that you're only looking for a current superintendent of a school district. Does that, could,
We can change that to whatever wording you would like us to. Is there a certain?
I mean, it may be another state superintendent. I don't know if that makes.
We could replace that
Okay.
with employer,
Mhm.
because the other line is present position, what's the job title?
Yeah.
Current
And then
employer.
who's your current
Right,
employer?
right.
So we
Okay.
could take school district out and just
Okay.
replace it.
Sandra?
I don't know if we're moving on to this yet, but in your stage 4, it talks about you presenting the top candidates to the State Board of Education. I think that may actually violate state law here. I think we have to have access to all of the candidates.
So my understanding of what we did last time is that we went in, we had a group A, we had a group B,
Right.
and we had a group C.
Yep.
And then we went into closed session, and then we came back out with a recommendation.
Correct.
Correct.
But we talked through all of the candidates.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've done numerous searches in the state of Michigan. I mean, we're familiar with, Michigan being what we refer to as a sunshine state, that all the interviews and all that information is public information. The interviews are in public. I've interviewed, in the state of Michigan in that kind of a setting. We also did, Palm Beach County, Florida, a couple of years ago. They're a sunshine state as
So many
well, a
sunshine
number of
states.
districts in Florida.
But,
Besides the sunshine, they're a sunshine state.
But that worked, from my understanding,
Yes.
very well for you all and us. And I think that if you're okay with that, we can just do the same.
To be clear, that was, they went into executive session for the candidates that said they didn't want to be identified
Right.
publicly.
That's correct.
Yep.
Because if they didn't mind, then I don't think,
There was one candidate that did not
Okay,
do that.
so you came out.
So we came into public session, gavelled in,
okay.
said, does anyone have anything to say? Gavelled right back out.
If I may? Okay. So our next thing on our topics of discussion is the approval of all advertisements. I went ahead and I called the office and made sure I knew which places we advertised last time. And I can hand this out. Keep the one with our scribbles on it.
While we're handing that out, maybe you would get, the other gentleman had given an example of a candidate that was disqualified because of what he found out about the candidate. We would still, that might be a group C for us. I mean, you guys can't disqualify a candidate from us. That would have just been somebody in our instance, you would have put him in group C, I guess, or whatever. But we would still see the name. Okay.
So all of these are places that you actually recruited, or sorry, yeah, advertised. And they're all the same. We had something in our notes that local newspapers as instructed by the district. I don't believe, did we do anything with local newspapers last time? I don't believe we did in the long run. But there are 3 others on here that we did that are not on the sheet, and that is LinkedIn, Career Builder, and we also advertised with the Broad Center.
I'm just looking up Education Next, which apparently does have advertisements, but I haven't seen whether it's placements or for products.
Okay.
And I think that's a quarterly publication.
We can check into it. It's not one that I'm aware of.
I don't, the reason I say that is because I'm not sure when it's published, and you may already be beyond
Right.
the advertising deadline.
Yeah, that definitely Molly in our office. She's the guru on that, so I'll have her jump on that. I don't know if there's any others that you want to discuss other than Education Next, but if you are okay just going and doing these same places, we can absolutely do that for you.
Do you ever advertise on websites?
I'm sorry?
Well, like blog, I mean, I'm thinking Diane Ravich's blog. I'd love to get in front of that group. I don't know, I mean, I'm sure she has advertisers, but I don't know if that would be appropriate or not appropriate, but I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, we normally go to most of the major professional organizations, associations,
but
and
that's
like Education Week,
standard
American
stuff.
Association of School Administrators. That's
Is
where
there
you're going to get the most bang for the buck. And then for the diversity, we go with ALAS, which is the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, and then NABC, which is National Black School Educators Association. So we specifically target them, again, for the diversity part.
I know, for example, the two of them that are not on here, LinkedIn and Career Builder. We don't really see a whole lot of traction of those two. In order to save you all some expense, I could maybe make the recommendation that you don't do that, but that's totally up to you. Again, this is your process.
But have you?
Yeah, if I may just add, I know Diane, and I don't know if it'd be on her blog or if it'd be on her site, but it'll take me, no time at all to find out if you want to know.
Thank you.
It won't be expensive, I can tell you.
Have you guys ever advertised in like the Chronicle of Higher Ed?
I don't believe so. It doesn't ring a bell for me, but that's not to say that we haven't. Do you want me to look into that?
If you could.
Okay.
The only thing I would say is that the audience, most
That's your
K-12
university people.
Right.
Well, yeah, but university people are, potential audience, I would
Right.
think.
Okay.
Depends on the cost. But I have to ask Scott, who was an ISD superintendent, have you ever looked at the Chronicle of Higher Education?
I've read it, but I haven't scoured it for job openings. So, it's, some superintendents will receive that to review, but
It'd be like
I
a
don't
research opportunity for you as opposed to a publication.
Your big two are the top two. Those are the ones that go on, every superintendent's desk.
That AASA and the Education Week. The other thing, Ray and Associates on our company website, this job will be listed on there. There'll be a link on there for the job, for the flyer, the application information. So that will also be on the Ray and Associates website at no cost.
So I don't know if this is something you all want to talk about or you want to okay right now.
Do we have a certain budget set aside for advertising?
Not sure.
Normally, that's embedded on whatever you allocated for the search.
I thought it was on your
Search.
proposal.
Yeah. There's,
Last month.
the advertising for us is in addition to whatever the contract number is on the proposal.
Yeah. So how much does this cost?
Ed Week right here is 640, or sorry, AASA is 649. That'll run 60 days.
Well, I mean, the whole thing.
We can add
Is
it
that
up.
what you're asking? Is this okay? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Can you tell me how much it is?
I can add it all up.
So normally organizations spend an additional $4,000 to $5,000
Yeah.
for the advertisement.
Probably a reasonable amount. Obviously that takes us, I don't think we need to be an Ed Week print edition for $5,345, but.
No, I would encourage you to do
Yeah.
the online.
But I think I would recommend as long as we can keep it under, say, $5,000.
Yeah.
Does that sound about reasonable
Yes,
to you?
I'm just looking at the RFP that was submitted by Ray and Associates, and it has the estimated advertising at $5,000. And that's what we had talked about last month.
We've missed the Education Next posting date, so. for
Okay.
January. So no need to worry about it.
Okay.
I guess if you bumped up against it and wanted to spend $5,050, I mean, I don't know, can they call Cassandra? I don't know if that's something that we have to make as a board, or can somebody, I hate.
Sorry, that was me. You know, I think what you want to do is to determine, you were right, Tom, you want to find out how much this costs and then determine whether or not the bang for the buck is worth it, because a lot of times, I think it was articulated pretty well, people advertise their postings as much for ego as they do for the location they're going to find their candidates. So you want to post it where you think the candidates are going to be. And this isn't GM going for one of its vice presidents. This is Michigan searching for qualified candidates in a variety of areas where they're most likely to be found.
Yep. And some of these are free, so why not? I don't want you to spend money. That's why I told you don't bother with LinkedIn, don't bother with Career Builder. So
I'm just trying to add this up for all of them. I'm seeing for 30 days, you're thinking it'll take 60 days to post, or 2 months to do this, or?
Yes.
700.
Advertising? Promotional flyer.
$250. I'm finding from NASB on down is $22.50, and then you've got the top two, Education Week and AASA.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to be under $5,000.
Well, up to $5,000.
With all of this, it looks like you'd be under $22.50.
We're
about
in good shape.
4,000.
So we'll tabulate all of this and send it back to Maryland, and then you guys can take one more look at it.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't need us to decide now.
I think you already gave us pretty good direction
Okay.
based on the previous search and.
And under 5,000.
I'm fine with your recommendation. You know what you're doing.
All right, thank you.
Do you ever indicate on the application where the applicant saw the advertisement for the position? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. We normally haven't. I don't think we have. It's something that's a good summer project for us. Absolutely a good summer project. The difficult thing is sometimes we at state associations or conventions, like I'm going to the Illinois convention, we have 5 or 6 associates walking around. Yeah, we could add that in there. So it's good point. Okay.
So one of the other things, we'll be calling your state associations also to ask them who they think will be some good candidates for us to pursue in terms of recruitment.
One of the things we wanted to go ahead and ask is when is a good time that we can sit down with all of you individually and ask you some questions and have a one-on-one conversation with you all. It does not necessarily have to be in person. We can do it over the telephone. It's something that we've done all the time for big searches or small searches. Is that something we can set up?
Marilyn, can you arrange those one-on-ones for us with them?
Yep. Could you all send me some good dates?
Yep. So if you want to work with Marilyn.
Okay.
Do you have a board meeting in December?
I said that would be a good time.
What's the date?
11?
December 11th.
Hold on, I'm checking.
I think
Yes,
you may
December
want to
11th.
include the 2 elected, but not
Oh,
sworn
yes.
in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're right here behind you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay.
But what I'm thinking is because I'm, close by, I could drive in a couple of afternoons. We normally schedule like an hour interview with each one of the candidates. You've got 8 folks. I could easily do that in 2 afternoons or one morning in the afternoon. So I could certainly work with Marilyn on a schedule.
Or Mike Collins can come.
Yeah,
Yep.
and our other colleague is in Ohio, so he's not too far away either, so.
Where are you based? Where are you out?
Yeah.
Where are you out of?
Bridgeport.
Bridgeport, okay.
So are you going for in-person or phone interviews?
I think we play it by ear, what we can do. I mean, the problem is we're all over the state. we're all in different locations, so sometimes it's not convenient for us.
Understood.
Maybe the day before the next board meeting? Or is that too late?
I don't think it's too late.
So my calendar is very clear in December so far.
Okay, so.
I'd be
so
flexible
Marilyn
in working with
will
you.
work with board members.
Yeah, it's up to each member.
Or even in November. I mean,
Okay, so send me dates, please, from which I can jump.
Don't forget, we have Judy and.
I am going to ask this.
you got that one.
One other question that we wanted to go ahead and we have to ask this is, are you interested in non-traditional, traditional, or hybrid candidates? It's something that we bring up and I usually have as a discussion.
I don't know what that
You
question is.
describe-
Okay, so
Can you
a traditional
define all
candidate
three,
is somebody
please?
that has possibly been a teacher, went to assistant principal, and is maybe, she's a sitting superintendent right now, risen up through the ranks of education. A non-traditional is somebody that maybe is a COO of Microsoft, and has been in the business world his or her whole life. And then a hybrid is somebody that may have been a superintendent in the past, and she has went and now works for Microsoft and wants to come back. So those are the three types of individuals that we tend to recruit. Obviously, in our business, more often than not, it's a traditional candidate. That's somebody that has been in education his or her whole life. So. Just a question that we always ask.
The hybrid, there was one example of the superintendent in El Paso, Juan Cabrera, started off as a teacher, and then he became a lawyer, worked most of his career as a lawyer. He went through our Ala Superintendent's Academy, ended up, becoming a superintendent afterwards. But his background, most of his career is in the legal profession, but he had some teaching experience. So that's an example.
Would that be something you deal with individually? Because I think some of us might have other ideas. I personally loved an out-of-the-box person. And I don't know if you saw this morning's video, but you might want to look at it because, there's some aspects of this board are very unusual compared to others, and maybe somebody typical raising out of the ranks that's a typical candidate may not be. We may want to open it beyond just.
It is one of the questions that we ask you individually. So.
I see Pam and then Dr. Z.
So I don't have the job description in front of us, but there were some things that we outlined. And then hopefully these are people who kind of know the board. We've been very vocal on some educational issues. And so I would hope that they would be aware of the division, the vision of the department and we're in a different type of place. We have we have the 10 and 10 goals and.
Looking at it right now, you're looking probably, as this document says, more of a traditional individual.
Under desirable credentials, skills, traits, and experiences, high-level experience, effectiveness in managing significant education improvement in peak 20 systems, experience as a school administrator or superintendent, educational leader, manager, classroom, teacher experience, instructional leader experience with turnaround schools, special education, contemporary technologies, and experience in rural and urban settings. That's from your job description.
Yeah. I think we're, obviously leaning towards the traditional candidate, but I don't think there's any reason why we wouldn't look at a non-traditional candidate.
Right.
And that helps us with the recruitment part.
That's something we could talk with you individually about as well. Who's the contact that the firm should send invoices to? I figured, I just didn't want to volunteer her again.
So Maryland's paying the bills?
And the last thing that we really need to discuss is the salary and benefits for the position. We have a salary comparison that Ricardo can hand out here. It's got the 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, and the 19, 20 estimated salary on there.
Is that a budget item in the state budget?
Do we have to, because it's an unclassified position, we
got a
have
couple more
to,
here.
I think we're gonna
ask
need,
permission.
you want
Couple more.
there we go.
They're right there.
You have to ask.
Yeah, so this, we would have to look at the budget to determine whether or not the existing budget for 1920 could accommodate the estimated salaries, most of the estimated salaries that are listed here.
I mean, where's ours?
So we're currently at what,
216. So that would be comparable to what you see under the 2018-19. That's where it would fall.
Okay.
What did you
216.
216.
How do we boost that?
I think that's what she was calling.
That's what I'm saying. We would have to go to the state budget office.
So it's fair to say right now, we have budgeted for roughly 216.
Right.
If someone came in and wanted higher, then we would have to.
Is that right? I mean, I don't want to have people not apply because it's low.
Yeah, it's kind of
But
too
on the
low.
other hand, you don't want to make an offer to someone and then they turn it
And
down.
then
too.
not have the funds to pay for
I think we
it.
need to be realistic and honest about what we can pay.
I guess I just don't know what that is. I mean, are you sure?
I should
Can we
think-
get that approval now?
I should think we could round it up to 220.
220, that's what I was gonna say.
I think
More than
that's
that.
reasonable.
Try to get more than that. Talk to Gretchen.
So then we say 220?
220.
20?
Get any-
A little bit more.
At some point, you need a motion on that.
Yeah. But I'm thinking, so that's for 2018, but we're actually hiring the person for
Right.
2019-20.
And usually what you do is you add 3% onto that.
Well,
Oh,
What's
I
the,
understand.
what are the state employees getting?
Wow, so we're the
I'm not sure that is,
Negotiated?
I'm not sure we have that yet.
This year
That
it was
usu-
2%, right?
This year it was 2%. And I don't think we have that for 1920 yet. I will find out tomorrow
Okay.
and let you know.
Thank you very much.
And then once we know what that is, then we can, if we know that there is going to be an automatic increase, we can automatically increase the 220
Okay.
to reflect that increase.
Would it be in order to make a motion on the salary at this point?
Yes, it would be.
Would it? I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
I hate to be at the bottom of the whole, I mean,
It wouldn't be.
you know, I don't know is there any way to talk to, see if we can, if there's any flexibility in this?
Well, with all due respect, when I look at where we were at 2016-17, we were at the bottom at 2016-17, at the bottom at 2017-18, and 2018-19.
Right, so can we boost it?
Only if there's money in the state budget for it.
And
But
there
that's
might-
what you're saying, can you
Could there might
explore
be?
that? Yeah.
I can explore that.
Yeah. So I'd rather, you need that right now, or can you?
No, we don't need it right now.
Can I ask a question? Because I know every state is different. But is the superintendent's budget determined by the state budget Or is the department, or does the state give the department money to operate and you determine what it is?
No,
That's what I'm not clear on.
the state budget office determines what our budget is.
Yeah, I know, that's your overall budget. Don't you determine what you pay the superintendent as long as you don't exceed the overall budget for the department? They don't set the actual amount you can pay state superintendent, do they?
Right.
The state superintendent position is one of 6 unclassified positions. There is a pool of money within that line item in the budget for which all of the unclassified positions are paid.
So it's not just the 6 positions in the department, it's the 6 positions in state government.
It's the 6 unclassified positions within the department.
Okay.
If we wanted to go higher, then somebody'd have to get their pay cut?
At the present time. Because we're
Or
fully staffed up
the
on
legislature would have to put money. more
Or
money
you'd have to
into the
increase our
budget.
appropriation.
Just understand that a lot of the superintendents in the Detroit metro area would all be making, more than that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, on a national scale, it's just low.
It is, especially when you look at somebody like Alabama, which is historically a very poor state.
I guess I'd like to know how much is.
They are doing 250.
I guess I'd like to know more about the the unclassified amount, how much it is.
And how do we say that education is the priority of our state, and then this is where we're falling? And I would love to see the other departments and wonder where they are in comparison to their counterparts. But, we can't have education as the priority, and we can't attract talent because we're falling below a state such as Alabama. And I have family in Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Everybody.
And the question is, your average here, it says the average is 212. That's not the average of this number. Is that supposed to be?
No, I think,
312?
you're correct. That is not,
All the states?
that spreadsheet probably didn't get adjusted there, this number here.
Yeah.
I still think of it in terms of.
Yeah, that's not accurate. That's on the low end of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's like the lowest.
I would say the average is probably 220 to 230 in that range.
In 16-17.
Yeah, in
Right.
16, 17. Folks, do we want to leave it in your lap to do some additional homework and with the state budget office, and then
Yeah.
before, we just need to know what that number is going to be before we get into the recruitment and developing the brochure,
Right.
because that brochure will have.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that there's enough, worm on the hook.
Right.
Yeah.
Is December 11th too late to provide you with this information?
13, no.
No,
Sorry, December 11th,
Should be
which
good.
is the next,
Yeah.
the next
Yeah, we're fine with that.
board meeting. Okay.
Should be good.
As far as that is concerned, hopefully our conversation with you was painless. That's all we really have for you at this time. Any questions that you have for us? Mike, do you have any questions?
No, I think we're pretty clear, because once you set it to April, instead of the original timeline, all this becomes very, very doable. You know what I mean? If we're waiting till the December 11th meeting, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's the first piece of it. That's where we started, was the timeline. I think secondly, you as a state board set what you want. We would just be remiss if we weren't bringing you what we see around the country as the things that make it most attractive. So that, in terms of things like salary, and that at least in numerous other states, the director of the Department of Natural Resources and the Department of Economic Development, et cetera, have no bearing typically on the amount paid a state superintendent, particularly where there's a board that hires it. It's a little different if it's just a gubernatorial appointment. If you look around the country, wherever the state board is responsible to hire, there's no correlation
to any of the other state offices that, in terms of that leadership that's appointed by the governor, because that's much more standardly set. So that's just an observation about the experience of dealing with states and other states and what I've been through in your seat.
Well, as far as we're concerned, we're excited to be back here, helping you all find another great leader. And I look forward to going to the Illinois Tri-Conference this week and start talking about you all there.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Ricardo, Michael, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to meeting all of you in person.
And we'll
Thank
see
you.
we'll see you next month.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on today's agenda is the approval of the standards for the preparation of teachers of lower elementary. That's pre-K through 3 and upper elementary, grades 3 through 6 education. The standards for the preparation of teachers of lower elementary and upper elementary education were presented to the board, if you remember, on August 14th, 2018. There was a period of public comment that those comments were used to make revisions. And today we are bringing to you the revised standards for you to review, and then we will be asking the board to vote to approve the standards. Our presenters today are Vanessa Kiesler, Sarah Kate Levan, Sean Kotke, Leah Breen, and Kelly Cassidy.
Thank you. Glad to.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to bring these standards back to you. Just a few reminders as we go into it. This is all part of Goal 3 of our Top 10 and 10 plan to develop, support, and sustain a high-quality, prepared, and collaborative education workforce. And all of the work that we've been doing in this overall project, which involves the certification structure as well as standards, is to develop a students-first certification system to prepare effective educators to use differentiated supports and meet the needs of the whole child. So values we embedded within these standards. So what are our purposes in these? In order to accomplish our goal, these standards were developed, and we have threefold purpose. First is to promote effective early literacy instructional practices, both at the pre-service level and in-service level, and deepen beginning teachers' understanding of early literacy instructional practices, to establish a shared vision for the knowledge and skills of entry-level PK3 and 3-6 teachers in Michigan, and to guide our educator preparation program development, revision, and assessment. Reminder of our timeline. We began the work on the standards in October of 2016 with convening stakeholders to draft standards and to seek feedback from reviewers. And we spoke to you last in August to give you an initial presentation and overview of the standards. Since then, we've engaged in a period of public comment. All the public comment was made available in a board brief, along with the summary document and highlighted changes made in response to public comment. We'll turn the presentation over to Kelly now to talk a little bit about the public comment and changes.
Through our public comment, we received 433 total responses. That's actually pretty large for a teacher preparation standards public comment. We did have multiple perspectives covered with teachers and administrators, higher education faculty. We had pre-service teachers, interested citizens, local board members, and students and parents responding. The majority of our comment came from people who represented the PK2 perspective, and most of those comments were on the PK3 standards themselves. We did also have comments on all of the other sections of standards and from across multiple perspectives with 3-6 teachers, higher education, and so on. As a result of comment, we made 3 major changes to the PK3 standards. The first one was the bulk of the changes, and that was within the professional section of standards. If you remember, there was a professional section, literacy, mathematics, science, and social studies, and the professional section was really based on learner-centered supports, professional ethics and growth, and strategic partnerships. The changes that we made were in response to, while our standards drafters really tried to make sure that we had a large focus on teaching the students in these grade levels. Comment showed us that it would really benefit the programs and the teachers coming out of the programs to have more detail and more information about learner-centered supports, professional ethics and growth, and strategic partnerships. So we used the recommendations that we received through comments to bulk up that section. The second major change that we made was to better show the arts and movement that is used in appropriate instruction for the PK3 level. Again, this was something that the committee drafters really tried to do through the content, but the commenters felt that it would be also good to have it drawn out and specifically referenced in that professional section, that appropriate instruction for PK3 does involve arts, music, health, wellness, and many of those things. The last major change that we made was to make it very clear that the content should directly reflect the PK and K-12 content that is approved by the State Board of Education. It is the responsibility of teacher preparation programs to make sure that their candidates understand those standards as approved by the board. So if the board changes the K-12 standards, then preparation programs need to change in order to address any new set of standards. We made similar changes to the 3.6 that we did in the PK3 because what made sense to bulk up in that section also then made sense to bulk up for the PK3. We did make some adjustments to the language to show that the appropriateness for that age level. So rather than saying young children, it would say something along the lines of children in that grade band. One reminder is that this is really part of an overall system. So when we think about preparation and we think about placement or how teachers are hired and how they're moved around a school and what their assignments are, those are both pieces that go hand in hand, but they are different parts of the system. So what we're talking about today is the preparation, and then we will also be talking about placement and district flexibilities as part of ongoing conversations around this work. So our next steps will be to develop a series of webinars that would describe the standards themselves, the teacher preparation standards themselves, and the shifts from previous sets of standards. Teacher preparation programs would then submit program applications to us, and then the candidates would enter any revised programs. And then they would exit programs. This is a slow-moving process. This is something that is focused on 3 to 4% of teachers each year are new teachers. So this is something that we want to do slowly and do well and think about candidates exiting their programs in the spring of 2026.
All right. And then with that,
So
we
at,
are-
yep. So at this point, we brought the standards back with those changes that Kelly outlined, and they are before the board for hopefully for approval.
Eileen?
We had two educators, two professors speaking today in support of it, and Dr. Duke from the University of Michigan also wrote in support. Is there any pushback from the field that hasn't been incorporated into the revisions? I've not received any adverse comments. I'm just asking if there's anything that's a matter of
No,
concern.
included in the public comment, our largest source of public comment was within the early childhood education community, and we addressed those recommended changes, adopted the language, and then sent it back for consideration, and then got an affirmative response that these changes now do address our concerns, and that they felt confident that this new grade band with these standards would be effective for PK3 students, for teachers of PK3.
And I think there were some things said during comment there, and then in this discussion, and this point, back up one slide, please. This one more. Sorry.
Got it.
As we said, these standards for preparation fit within a larger ecosystem of the educator pipeline, and so the outstanding concerns around teacher shortage in general that aren't helped or hurt by this, but do relate to teacher shortage is a thread that runs through all the pieces of these circles. So these mechanisms help if you have people who are in the pipeline to be teachers. So I think some comments came in during public comment, or when we have this discussion, there's a lot of question about how this intersects with teacher shortage. We just want to name that we need to keep working on teacher shortage while we increase and enhance and make better our preparation programs and think about placement and permits. That they are related issues, but not codependent per se.
Other questions, comments?
Well, I'd like to make the motion, and then we discuss, and then we vote. So I move that we adopt the approval of the proposed standards for the preparation of teachers of lower L, PK3, and upper L, P6 education.
Second? All those,
Now we can discuss.
Yeah.
we can discuss. Any questions, any more questions? And then Tom.
I know I missed part of the presentation, and I think that you stated that you would talk a little bit more about the stakeholder groups that you met with, and you were going to share that information with us. I don't know if you did already when I was out. I thought last time that.
So the last time we talked about this was in August.
And at that time.
And there was a board brief about the phonics. And we shared a board brief from the phonics discussion after that.
Okay.
So can you guys hit who the stakeholder groups are one more time, just to, I'm trying to think if we left something out there or if we just need to review. So let's talk about our stakeholders one more time, who the groups were.
So we include K-12 practitioners, particularly from these grade spans and across content areas. Higher education representatives are typically the bulk. So, and the K-12 practitioners include school administrators as well as teachers.
Right. No, I know. I was just wondering a little bit deeper dive into that. I thought I saw in the link that we had that you guys were going to be sharing a little bit more about who those groups were. Who were in those groups of stakeholders.
You mean the public comment or the original?
The public comment. It was the public comment, yes.
Yep, so we want to go back to.
Go back to those.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question, Pam.
We did receive 433 public comment responses. They did come from teachers, from citizens, from faculty members, from administrators. We did have a large number of comments come from the PK2 representation and come from the early childhood community. We did receive a letter from that community that we addressed throughout comment and then provided response back to them saying, did this resolve your feedback, and got an affirmative, yes, it did. We had pre-service teachers respond, which was something that we were careful to collect this time, and we haven't before, so that was good. Citizens, parents, local school board members, and students.
And the question that I always ask, and I ask this all the time, is just of those groups, were there partnership districts? Did we see diversity? Did we see groups from across the state within those? And sometimes we fall short when we ask this question of certain districts, and those are the districts that typically are the ones that need the most help. So that's the question that I typically ask. So that's why I was asking that.
This work began prior to the creation of partnership districts, but as it moved forward, we did have representation from partnership districts, either through the feedback process or through public comment, in making sure that we did have that perspective included.
Okay.
Thank you, and Tom?
So the bands, the PK3 and 3 through 6. So are there students that are going in right now that this kind of changes on them? So they thought that they were going to get a broader band, and now they're going to have to focus on one band or the other band?
No, the first candidates will exit the program in 2026 in these programs. The reason the timeline is so long is because when a student, I'm sure as you remember, a student first enters college, they get a bulletin that explains their program to them, and they exit in that using that bulletin in 4 or 5 years with graduation. So after the new programs are approved, the colleges and institutions will adopt their new bulletin. Students will enter their freshman year under that bulletin, and they'll exit in these programs. So it's a 4 or 5 year exit.
And so so after that, 2026, if somebody wanted to teach 3rd and 4th grade, they'll need to go to get more credits.
So that will be worked out with the educator placement group. So remember, they mentioned there's a certification process, and then there's a group working on how are teachers placed using these new endorsements. And that group has not yet made any decisions about placement around teachers. It's possible that could be the case. One of the components of this is also making it easier for teachers to expand grade ranges and content area endorsements easier than they could prior to this time.
We've heard from some of our higher education partners that they think students are going to be interested in picking up 2 grade bands as part of their initial preparation. And would we imagine that to be a possible thing that they could do, given the overlap in some of the concepts? Certainly there's at least 1 grade band overlap, or 1 grade overlap. We imagine that that could be a possibility, like a double major or so.
Other questions? Nikki?
What organizations did you say you used for the literacy teacher prep standards?
We worked with Michigan Reading Association, International Literacy Association, Michigan Dyslexia Association, our core literacy organizations.
Are they affiliated with the accredited organizations, like the international bodies and the?
Well, the International Literacy Association is an accrediting body that accredits reading specialist programs around the country, around the world.
Michelle?
I took it upon myself to talk to, I work at Wayne State and talk to people like Kate Roberts, that I respect their opinions, and I got a lot of very favorable feedback about the process, about how diligent, looking at the latest research and how much of an improvement it would be. But I know there was my only concern, and so I'm very supportive and appreciative of all your work, and is that with the 3rd grade reading goal, I think you mentioned, and I guess that's going to happen over, it's going to have before this takes place. So we're going to have a lot of 3rd graders in certain districts. And if consideration, and I'm not sure about people who continue on to the 4th grade, and it just seems like that's a critical intersection, 3rd to 4th grade, and consideration of how to make sure that the 3rd graders are prepared to advance to the 4th grade. And but it sounds like that might be the next phase, where you're looking at how where you're putting the teachers and how they could maybe do that. So that is, it's unfortunate we have that law, in my opinion, but I think the concepts and the feedback I've been getting have been very positive from people that I respect.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah,
Yes,
one more.
Tom?
I read in the document talks about how these standards are research-based. I don't see that they're evidence-based. What would that have taken to get evidence-based as opposed to research-based standards?
Can you say more what you mean by evidence-based?
Well, these standards will have been proven to increase, education and make education better.
And you differentiate that from research-based? Because the point of research is to understand what works and what doesn't. High-quality research is doing that.
Well, I always hear about evidence-based, and there's always a distinction between research-based and evidence-based. Research is in theory. It doesn't necessarily mean there's any facts or anything proven. It's research as opposed to evidence.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, there is effectiveness on the level of we're pointing in a direction versus we've arrived in a place. I think that's what you're trying to say, right?
So I think what the team did, I think we're using the term research-based, but I think in this case we could use the term evidence-based. So when I think about evidence, I think about, for instance, ESSA has codified the 4 tiers of evidence now. The highest tier being a randomized controlled trial, and then up a level or down a level, quasi-experimental design, and down a level, a correlational study, and down one more level, research or evidence from at least one somewhat related practice that might have influence here. So when we think about those tiers of evidence and how they layer onto this, the team and our research partners looked across the body of existing evidence for practices that have been proven to work for increasing Literacy, and again, in that, they might hit one of those 4 tiers. Some come from those randomized control trials, but some come from promising practices, because not everything in education can be smushed into a randomized control trial or a quasi-experimental design. So I think we looked across the spectrum of maybe information, some of which maybe hits the highest level of evidence in ESSA, but some maybe is that lower level of it's a promising practice that seems like it may work in this case. And then we look too at where we want to go. So I think this is Nikki's point. Some of where we want to go, we don't necessarily know exactly what will work unto that exact point. So there's an element of building on a solid foundation of evidence, but also continuing to gather and evaluate as we move forward.
And then there's just a lot of, there's the prominence of social and emotional learning is something I think I brought up before, and I still have concerns about that. But I know this is certainly better. I have no doubt this is better than what we have. I respect, when Dr. Roberts was talking about it. I mean, I certainly think that, and I certainly don't anticipate any problems on the board, but I still have some concerns.
Okay. If there aren't any other comments or questions, then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
2 nays? Is that correct? Okay. Motion. Nikki? Okay. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on today's agenda is the approval of the nominations to the Special Education Advisory Committee. That would be SEAC.
Thank you.
Each year, the State Board of Education is asked to approve nominations to the Special Education Advisory Committee membership. 6 organizational vacancies need to be filled, and nominations are being proposed. It looks like it is Scott Kanaszczyk. Is going to present the recommendations to fill these vacancies, and then the board will be asked to approve the nominations to SEAC.
Motion to approve is presented.
For
Now we open it to discussion.
Tom was going to make the job real quick.
Well, I mean, I see the nominations. I don't know how.
So in your packet, you have a letter from Sheila dated October 30th, where she shared the list of the organizations represented on SEAC, as well as the 6 members that we are recommending be placed on that. We know SEAC advises the State Board of Ed on all issues special ed. It's made up of 30 or so organizations, whereby 51% of that group has to be parents.
Any questions or comments for Scott?
It's on the hard copy agenda?
No, it's on the
Link.
hot
Link.
link. Yeah,
Hot link.
Right.
Yeah, I did. I'll give board members a chance to access.
Like we just saw it.
I mean, for me, I guess at this time, and I've tried to help to do this, I'll just say, some of those groups that we talked about, or people with expertise that we talked about before. And I'm sorry, somehow I didn't see that this list was going out again. And I know I had given names previous years, and I know one person in particular could not make it, but let me look and see. So I guess I'm saying all that to say is that someone who has a background in environmental exposure, someone who has a background in some of the other items that we talked about, it would really be good to get them integrated. And I know I've talked about helping with that before. I've given a name before. That person was going to sit on the board, but then it ended up that they couldn't make it. But whenever we have an opportunity, I just hope that we're thinking about that.
Thank you. The nominations in front of you are representatives of those organizations. They're not at large.
Oh, they're not at large.
And so I think, Dr. Pugh, that may be that you recommended some at-large folks.
Right.
So these 6 are
Okay.
replacements for the organizations they represent.
Okay.
But thank you.
I can I have a question?
Yes, Michelle?
When would there be an opportunity for the at-large?
The at-large come up in January.
January?
Okay,
Thank you.
good, thanks.
You asked for names in December?
Want me to answer that?
Yes.
Typically, the month or two before, we send a reminder to the board that says if you have nominations, there are at-large vacancies, and then the board can recommend people. And if you don't have anybody to recommend, the Office of Special Education has some also.
So we'll make sure that that information appears in an upcoming board brief. That'll give board members a chance to make recommendations for the at-large positions. Seeing no other comments or questions, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on today's agenda is the state and federal legislative update. Marty Ackley, the Director of Public and Governmental Affairs, will lead the state and federal legislative updates.
Maryland is passing around some information. The Legislative Committee of the State Board met. Oh, by the way, the legislature's on break now until the last week of November. This is the usual break they take every year. So the State Board's Legislative Committee met on November 1st, and several pieces of legislation were discussed and supported to bring to the full board for consideration. What you have in front of you are some of the statements that we put together as draft, possibly based on those discussions, and I will hand it over to the committee chair, Eileen Weiser.
So, on the theory that, let's see, we had 5-6 members of the board sort of in and out. You were on the phone, Pam was there, Richard and Lupe, you were there. Richard and Cassandra were there. A different version of Cassandra than you see right now. One that was spunky, one that was actually present. And we couldn't tell because all we're doing is analyzing.
Thank you.
We're just analyzing, the legislative committee analyzes the work that has been forwarded from the board, which in this case was think through whether or not statements are necessary for supporting legislation that may come out on lame duck. So knowing that the board may choose to take no action at all, we went ahead and talked through the objections that the committee members plus the co-chairs had. And then the staff took those discussions and translated them into potential statements. So I think the very first question would be, is it the board's interest at this point to put forward statements about legislation that could be passed in lame duck? Because if the board doesn't want to weigh in on that, then going through these things may not be necessary, given the lateness of the time.
I think we should.
I think we should. So that's one. And I think the committee felt, Lupe and Nikki and Pam, you felt strongly enough about these issues that all of them should be discussed. So that's 5 people. Then let's go forward and do it. Okay? Some of them we had already addressed in previous statements. And not all of them are in Representative Kelly's letter, which is the last sheet of the packet that was just passed out. If you turn to that for a minute, right? Representative Kelly, his priorities are going to be passing A to F, the teacher preparation package, which is bills 5598 to 5605, and the innovative schools legislation. Innovative school boards was, okay, no, that's not it. It's the innovative school package, 63, 14, and 15. And in addition to that, there is legislation pending that we've already passed statements on. So if you take a moment, do they have this too? Is that in this stapled here? So in the past, we already passed on the educator bills that are being considered. We had already put forward a school counselor statement, a supporting legislation on that in June of 2015. And we also, in October of 2015, put forward a statement on weapons in schools. But we've never put one forward on school safety. So that is one of the proposals that the staff came up with based upon the legislative committee's thoughts to express. If you look at the first page of your packet, there are 3 statements on that page, and the second page has a 4th. So on the first page, the middle one would be the follow-up to the weapons in schools proposal. And it reads, the State Board of Education is committed to the safety of all Michigan school children and educators. Every community should be able to expect that its schools are safe, with conditions that meet and support the needs of all children and the professional needs of all educators. As such, the State Board of Education encourages the legislature to consider school safety legislation during the remainder of the 2017-18 legislative session. If it's the will of the board to propose that, or to send that on, and I think that'd be the first thing, is to take a vote on whether or not the board wants to move that forward, and that would be your call, not mine. I don't have the authority to ask the board to.
But I do.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Perhaps what we need is a motion to adopt the statement for a submission to the legislature. We should probably do these one by one because they're very different. And that would be the middle one on the first page.
Move. So move.
Support.
I see a motion, and we have a second.
For
And now
discussion.
we will have discussion.
Could you
Cassandra?
clarify the motion again?
The motion would be for the board
Right there.
to approve the statement that I just read on school safety legislation. It's the middle one here.
Thank you.
For possible submission to the legislature, and editing is possible. Citing the previous gun statement is appropriate.
Well, is there a specific bill that we're talking about?
Right.
Where Marty shuffles through an entire package.
Yeah, there's a package of bills that the legislature has introduced.
I mean, I'd want to see and understand it, and it might, I don't know that I could make a decision in a few minutes.
Okay, I've sent before a list of bills that were in lame duck that were to be considered. They deal.
What number it is, Marty?
Well, there's several bills. There's 2 bills on cyberbullying. There's bills on developing a school safety commission. There's a bill that would require public and non-public schools to designate a liaison to work with the school safety commission to identify and evaluate school safety measures. They would be to grade. There's one bill that would grade the safety build of the buildings. That would be confidential. Sent to the state police. That would be confidential.
So can I just say, the concern that I have with this statement is it's so generic.
Right.
I agree.
That literally anyone could say, oh, they support whatever idea I have. So I think at a minimum, it should either reference the bills we're talking about or reference the statement we've made before.
And I would say that it should reference the statement on weapons in schools and the bills. And I also, at one point, had a couple of qualifying words. Thoughtful came to mind, appropriate, although what's appropriate and thoughtful to us may not be to the legislature.
Gotcha. Tom, and then Pam.
I was, I guess this could go on for a long time if we're going to go over every single bill. I thought we were going to be more specific about Representative Kelly's letter, and I signed on recently to the Tri-County Alliance. They put out a statement yesterday, and I mean, that basically says there's too much, it says there's too much at stake for schools throughout Michigan to rush legislation through with little or no time to properly review or debate its impact on our students, parents, and teachers. Lame duck is simply not the time to make fundamental changes to Michigan's public education system, and with reference to and urging that the bills within Representative Kelly's letter not be pushed through. And I was just, a statement like that is something that I was kind of looking for us to make. I don't know that I want to spend the next couple hours going through And I mean, seriously, if you want me to vote on bills, I need to understand the unintended consequences, what exactly what does it and does it not say. I mean, I guess I'm a little nervous about doing that as opposed to making a broad statement that I just think there's some of these things that, or all of them that Tim Kelly's recommending that I think is fundamental change that he introduced like 3 weeks ago. He's trying to push these things through, and I just think there's not enough time to vet them properly, and we should just say, just don't do it, but I don't know about going, that was my idea. I know I'm only one person, but.
I support it. I support that.
So if I can just intervene on this, some of these bills have been around since the spring. I'm not going to defend that. What we did was we met and we analyzed them. And so the analysis that came through, and then it was interpreted by the staff. So I didn't try to edit the staff statements because they had an attorney on board and they captured the conversation fairly well. That doesn't mean that it should be in the statement that we send forward. So I'm totally open, but the committee did meet and is forwarding the work. The wisdom of trying to intervene at this point is always dicey because if you say the wrong thing, you may get what you actually requested by accident. So I think first you have to go back to, should we be weighing in? And the committee members said yes just now. Tom, perhaps you want to do an amendment, a friendly amendment with the statement that the Tri-County Alliance put out and see whether that works for people. The legislation was sent out, and I recognize that at this time with the election, it was very hard for people who weren't sitting through that hour and a half, almost 2-hour conversation to pick their way through it. I get that. And I'm totally open to whatever solution the board feels is appropriate. Our work was meant to help, and if it doesn't, that's
exactly right.
I see you did have statements on this document related to some of the bills that I think that Representative Kelly is pushing for lame duck. So I think, I think that's useful. I think the others, which I'm more familiar with, I was focusing on those. The others, I think maybe we could wait till December and maybe just focus on, because they don't seem like they're going to really be moving, but maybe I'm wrong. But I think the ones that he has stated he's going to push, maybe we should focus on those now and then hold the others till December.
I think that makes sense too. I was just trying to get school safety out of the way because it was easy.
All this stuff going on.
So then going back to the top one, which is to create a statewide ADF school accountability system. Sorry.
I think I was in here somewhere. So are we not going to do the school safety? Because there was some legislation where there is some funding that was going to the state police. And we wanted to make sure that funding was coordinated here as well as at the local levels. So I don't know if that's something that's going to move. I don't know if that's something that we just right now said that we weren't going to get to, but if we are, I would want that to be addressed. Someone raised that, and we talked about that. So if we do, because I'm probably going to have to take off shortly here, but that was an issue that came up with the school state safety, and it was because there was funding as well that was attached to that.
Yeah.
Lupe?
And I brought it up in the committee because this is extremely, very important. Everybody's talking about school safety, guns in school, and etc. So this is a very important statement that we brought to you. And notice what we did. We discussed it in committee, and we drafted something for you all, and that's how we're supposed to do business. We bring it out of committee, and we're being loyal to the process, bringing it to the body, okay? So you don't like how we stated it, okay, so be it. But I think that it will clarify it more if we add the statement we wrote before, and also the numbers of the bills that they're trying to propose. They will clarify it more with the statement that we made. But I don't want it to say, okay, no, not this one. Okay, so Representative Kelly is addressing what he wants to pass. There's a lot of legislators in the body, and they all have their own agendas, and they're gonna pass whatever they want a lame duck, right? And so these are only just some things. This is just one individual that wrote to us. So I don't want this bill to say, okay, no, we're not gonna, I want something on this school safety. And if we will clarify it more, we can add the statement and the numbers. But I want, it's very important for the schools. And everybody's surprised that we, the board, have not said anything.
Michelle?
Yeah, so I know Pam's got to leave, and so before she leaves, I would like to propose that we second the statement from Tri-County area and support that statement, either we can rephrase it ourselves or just say that we're in support of that statement, and
Your second to support is a motion, not a
Well,
second.
actually, you
Then I
can't support because we don't have a
I'm
motion
amending.
yet.
Oh, I thought she was,
Oh,
okay.
oh, I
thought
made
that
the
was a
motion.
It was a friendly motion?
A friendly amendment, you mean?
Yes.
Because there is a motion
Yes.
before us?
Yes.
So
Are
that's
you
a
making
friendly
a friendly
amendment?
amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
so then.
And then there is a second to the friendly amendment.
Yeah, second. Okay, so forgive me, I'm just, because my priority is less on process and more on looking out the outcome for public education. So I know process is important, but I also think these bills are incredibly detrimental to public education. I think that should be the focus. So I would like to, what if I'm out of order?
We have a motion on the table that we have to vote on.
We have a motion with a friendly amendment and a second to the.
Or an amendment, I don't know if it's
Vote
friendly,
the-
but it's
on
an
the
amendment.
Vote on the friendly amendment.
Okay.
No, friendly amendment first.
So now we're going,
We
we're
can
going
debate
to.
it. Does anybody want to hear it again, or are we good?
Well, there's another issue too, which is the one that I started off with was the one that for sure we would want to support, in the sense that it is exactly what Pam was just talking about. It's an interdepartmental collaboration where you don't want duplication of efforts or of money. You want to make sure that this money is spent precisely on what schools need, not to feed bureaucracy. So that's why I was trying to take that one first, because it's different.
And I'm fine with making sure that we address Representative Kelly's lame duck, but I do, like I said, because we had some conversation about that one, and it might be moving as well. I wanted to make sure that we got that out there.
So actually, what we have, I was just going to say, we have we have a motion on school safety legislation, but then we have an amendment, which on the table, to adopt what Tri-County Alliance has produced regarding not endorsing any legislative changes to education, which is.
And making fundamental changes
Changes
to
to-
Michigan's public education as outlined in Representative Kelly's bill.
Okay, which does not address safety.
His.
Representative Kelly's
Okay.
letter does not
Call-
address safety.
Call the question, we have to vote on the friendly amendment right now.
Okay.
Wait. We have to follow the process. There's a friendly
withdraw it?
amendment.
Okay, I'm just.
Withdraw your
okay.
motion,
Get rid of the
please.
first one first and then.
Okay, I'm just not sure I want to do the first one.
Well,
So I'll withdraw it, but I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second
What is it? It's this sentence right here in the middle?
in the
The
document,
two sentences?
in the middle where it says State Board of
Yeah, and I just
Education
don't know what
Statement on
those-
School
what
Safety
that exactly
Legislation.
means.
Okay, go ahead, Sheila, what?
If we could just.
Did we,
Yeah, Lupe, yeah.
Yes, Lupe.
did you add, are you gonna add the bill numbers?
Yes.
And also the other statement that we made prior to with guns in school? That's my motion.
Pam, I'm sorry.
And Pam
Pam,
If
seconded.
that was a part of, if that,
Yeah, he recommended that.
Right.
okay.
I would add reference to the statement from 2015 on guns in schools. I would add the bill numbers, and I would add the language that Pam has provided or offered about the collaboration between departments and funding for school equity or the school safety through MSP, state police. that we would collaborate, that they would collaborate with.
And I put the local, I mean, there are local efforts too, I think, that are going to, that need to be collaborated.
You're right, the grants are going to locals.
Okay.
Yes.
It's because you have Michigan State Police, you have local police that are inside of schools, and then you have MDE that have some school safety funding, and we just want to make sure that these all work together collaboratively. Yes. Okay.
So we aren't voting on this statement, we're voting on this statement.
Yes, it's the middle one on this. Okay. Middle one on the 4-page packet or 3-page packet.
With all the additions.
With all the
With,
additions, what?
with all the additions that we just talked about, which is the reference to the state board statement on weapons in schools, and the reference to the bills, and the reference to the braiding of funding.
And I don't, well, okay,
So friendly amendment to remove this reference, because we know this board is going to be split on this. I mean, I think it's already in place. I don't think we're going to remove that.
oh, and it's not even a loophole anymore. Didn't, that was one of the
So-
reasons the Republicans didn't support,
Clement?
yeah, Clemente, was because it's no, she voted to eliminate that loophole that it talks about in here. So, I mean, I don't even know if this is an accurate statement anymore.
So can Marty investigate this and clean it up and find out whether we should be citing the previous statement?
Right, because I think it's, yeah, Clemente is, that was why the Republicans didn't support her, because she removed that, she voted to remove that loophole.
So if that's the case, then it wouldn't be included. Is the board comfortable enough with the intent of this statement to turn it over to staff with the caveats that we've added to it? And if you can call a vote, Madam Chair.
Wait, whoa, I thought you said we were going to defer something.
Yes, that we are, well, whatever procedure is necessary. We wouldn't be deferring it. We'd be asking the staff to redraft it with all of the caveats, all the things that we just added to it, and checking to see whether Clemente removes the need to cite our weapons in school
Oh, okay.
statement.
So we're not voting on a statement, just directing the staff.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the staff would, the next question would be, what would be the process to submit it? Because there won't be a board meeting between now and when it should come out. By the time we meet again, lame duck will be over or close to it.
No?
No?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No, they're coming back the last week of November, and then probably the first 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks
Right.
of December.
Oh, yeah.
So will the next board meeting be in time enough to sway potential passage of this legislation? If the answer is yes, then the board can wait. And if it's not, then the board needs to consider whether it could approve a statement on an interim basis from the staff. What the mechanism would be to do it.
Dr. Z?
I'm not clear as to whether we're saying anything new or specific. And so I guess I'm not even sure that the proposed statement will be helpful. So I have some real question in my mind on that.
Nikki?
I think what we're saying in this statement is just that it be addressed in this legislative session, school safety. That's, I mean, the original statement, I think, is a good statement, but then we're adding all these things, and some of the things we're adding aren't even accurate anymore. So that's why my friendly amendment is still on the table, right? That we just take this out, or you're saying vote on it being amended, or vote on you rewording
Directing the
it.
staff.
Okay.
We're directing the staff to craft a statement based on the information that was shared by board members today. And then the question that we have before us is it too late to bring that statement back to the board to vote on December 11th at the next board meeting? Do we want to wait, or do we want to have our staff craft that statement and use it without the board approving it?
I don't think it has much weight if the board hasn't approved it, but, I mean,
Yes, Michelle?
Seems to me all we're saying that we needed to add, but what Pam wants to make sure is that the funding that is provided through the legislation be coordinated at the local district and through the department. Why don't we just add a statement that, that we strongly advise that the funding that is that is provided through this legislation be coordinated in an effective manner through the LEA and the MDE.
And cite the legislation.
And cite the legislation.
I
And
think
that's
Marty
it.
already had that
Right, I
statement.
agree. Now, here's where I think is, this
Yeah,
is
get
the
rid of
crux.
that,
Okay.
yeah. So that would take care of that issue. So we just add that sentence, and then we can vote on it? Do you feel comfortable with that?
Well, that's saying something, and it's something I could support, that whatever the legislature adopts, that is coordinated with the local schools and MDE, and I think that makes sense.
All right, so I'm screwing up parliamentary procedure, so I'm not, don't look at me.
So I guess the motion, the original motion is on the table with the exclusion of this statement, right?
So what I'm understanding, I just want to make sure I'm clear, I'm understanding is the statement that's in the middle of the page, we're going to add a line onto that statement that says that funding for school safety should be coordinated with LEA and MDE. Is that what I'm hearing? And then are we going to cite any of the bills? Any pending bills?
And just so I can say, I think it should be,
Marty,
should
you're
be,
adding the bill numbers, right?
should it be funding and activities? I mean, because we can't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
make
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Funding and activities.
Okay.
Okay?
So that's Michelle's amendment, and I second the amendment.
Okay.
If we're all agreed, we can call the question on the amendment.
Read it start to finish one more time.
Marty, can you read what you have, please?
Sorry.
All right. State Board of Education is committed to the safety of all Michigan school children and educators. Every community should be able to expect that its schools are safe with conditions that meet and support the needs of all children and the professional needs of all educators. As such, the State Board of Education encourages the legislature to consider school safety legislation, where I will insert the bill numbers during the remainder of the 2017-18 legislative session. And what I will do is to Tom's point, this bill may not be relevant, or the issue may not be relevant as far as carrying schools and guns, because I know that there was a state Supreme Court ruling also on this issue, but I think there is intent language as to, no guns in schools and such, that we can build into that statement also, and that the funding and activities for school safety appropriated by the state be coordinated with local education agencies and the Michigan Department of Education in a interdepartmental collaboration.
Question, are any of the pending bills to have anything to do with guns in schools?
Guns in schools, no.
Why are we
Can we just-
referencing?
No.
We said no, not.
Make
not
it go
include that.
away.
Yeah, no, we don't want to
Then why
reference
reference
this. We don't
our
want to reference
statements?
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of muddies the water.
So we just want to
The
add one
reference,
sentence
the
at
reference
end.
to this
Well, if there's no pending-
document, we are not including in this statement, correct?
Right.
Right.
So you
It's
should
not
be
about
sick
guns
more
in
often.
schools.
Well, if there's no pending guns in
just gave
schools,
her
what's it
my-
That's
about?
clarity.
There is some
Wrap it up,
legislation, but it's not the guns in schools, is my understanding.
What's it about?
So there are two amendments on the table, sorry. What were they?
Increasing safety in the schools.
Okay.
Okay, but it has nothing to do with guns in schools, either concealed weapons or
You
nothing.
don't, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
Reviewed
I
the
would
bills.
defer
Right.
to-
I
The
remember
bills
nothing.
are more about
Structural.
structural, creating safe schools.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure, I'm not so sure about all the metal detectors and making kids feel like they're walking through prisons and stuff sometimes.
Or having local.
You know what I mean, so I don't know, so is that included and I'm voting yes on that, or?
Not
You know, I guess I don't quite understand what is,
Doesn't it
what
creates
is
like a commission?
school safety legislation? Is there only 2 bills that would fall under that, or 10, or
Well, look up Marty, and he sent them to you in.
is there 2 or 10 or 20?
They've been sent to
I
us
think we need
twice,
to wait
Tom,
on
and as I said,
Look
it's
Marty up.
perfectly reasonable in election season that people have not had a chance to review them. This is why the board created a legislative committee, so that in times of crisis, when there's too much to do, the legislative committee can make a pass at it. So it may not be working right now, but the idea was good.
But we can come back to it next.
Yeah.
Do you want to, the worst comes to worst, we just come back to it.
Could we ask Marty just the staff to draft something? Be a little bit more specific and give us a little more time.
Sure. A summary of the bills is what you're asking for?
You know, what I'm hearing Tom say is, can you draft a statement
statement?
that we will bring back to the board next month?
And with
Based
that
on
in
what you
mind, can we
heard-
would a motion to table be appropriate then to the next meeting?
Do we have enough time? Sure.
If we table, then there's no discussion, so I just want to ask before, since you can't discuss it. Okay, then I'll move the table till next meeting, this
support.
specific statement.
Okay.
Support, we
So we
beat
have
it to death.
support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries.
Moving briskly along to the bottom statement, this one has actually been moved in the House. These two bills have been moved in the House in October. And this we want. This would keep student growth and assessment data as a 25% component on the annual value and annual year-end evaluation for teachers and school administrators instead of raising it to 40%. The department wants that, and the board has discussed it in the past. So I would move adoption of this statement.
Support.
Support.
We can go to that one.
Okay. Okay, discussion?
I'm just.
This is just the 25%?
Correct.
This is for educator evaluation.
Instead of going to
40%.
Yeah.
And this is not in
This
the
is
Tim
not the-
Kelly
this is not Tim Kelly.
package, but it may be in lame duck.
No. And then next we can go to my-
These are all the things that we thought were gonna be in lame, could come up in lame duck.
Right, well, the reason it's not in Representative Kelly's memo to his colleagues is that this has already moved out of the House. It's in the Senate.
So these are
We have no
things that we
indication what the
thought were
Senate's
gonna
plan
come
is
up,
for
Okay.
their agenda. Yeah.
Sure it moved out of the House?
Can we call the vote?
Right? Oh, I'm sorry,
No,
it's
I
on
was
the
gonna
House
say, I
floor.
thought it- yeah, I didn't think it moved out of the House.
Okay, my bad.
Marty's not doing his job.
My bad. Can I have your cold for a minute?
Okay, so we are now in the discussion stage. We had a motion, it was seconded, we're in the discussion. Any more discussion?
That was the discussion.
Okay, all in favor of this statement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Now on the,
You passed one.
now with the one on the, can I, if I can have the floor, the one on the top on A to F and the second page, I think that's encompassed in kind of my statement, so could I make a motion?
Yes, you
If
can.
it's been vetted by the esteemed legislative committee, I would like to make a motion to agree with the TCA statement, it being there's too much at stake for for schools throughout Michigan to rush legislation through with little or no time to properly review or debate its impact on our students, parents, and teachers. Lame duck is simply not the time to be making fundamental changes to Michigan's public education system, and that statement is with regard to encouraging opposition to the items within Representative Kelly's letter. I make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Eileen?
Oh, I'm not supporting it.
Okay.
So.
Okay, who's supporting?
Michelle.
Okay, Michelle is supporting. Discussion.
So I have to
Eileen.
ask former Representative McMillan, exactly how much wind would have been knocked out of your sail in lame duck by that statement, as opposed to statements on specifics regarding the proposed legislation? Because the reality is that this board has a different interest than the Tri-County Alliance, has analytical capacity on these pieces of legislation, and we may want to weigh in specifically. And that's the devil's advocate, because your proposal gets us out the door a heck of a lot faster than mine.
Yeah, I mean, it gets into A to F, to the changes to teacher prep, to, the so-called innovative districts. I mean,
Public innovative districts.
I mean, I think it hits those three items that we're concerned about, and instead of debating them, I think I'm ready to vote, and if you vote it down, if you're not ready to vote on it.
Again, I just want to bring up that I don't think it will stop them. I think that.
Bless you.
In other words, I think that specific opposition on points within the legislation is more appropriate for this body than it would have been for the Tri-County Alliance. Because that legislation impacts, it takes away authority from us.
I think we are. We're making a statement on these items that are in his letter, specific.
Any more discussion? We have a motion. We have a second. Since there isn't any more discussion, we'll take a vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
I abstain.
Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, one abstention. So motion carries.
1-1, yeah.
Next item on the agenda is the item that was added at the beginning of the meeting today, which is the item O, discussion of future State Board of Education agenda items. Yes, Eileen?
Wait, Pam has to go. I defer
Pam?
to Pam.
If we're just adding items, I would like to have an item for Flint Community Schools to present at a very soon and upcoming meeting. I think quite a few of the items that we talked about today, we could have discussed by Flint Community Schools and have the superintendent, the new superintendent, Derek Lopez, and I know that he would like to do that. And I think some of the challenges that we see across the state have been epitomized in Flint, and some of the things that they're doing to get through. I really like Superintendent Lopez's approach about being holistic, talking too about some of the financial constraints and concerns, legacy debts, but a lot of what we talked about today. So I'm hoping that we can have him on a hopefully, if not December's meeting, January.
Thank you. Eileen and then Nikki.
I have a laundry list. First of all, I'd like to say that I think this agenda item, as stated in our bylaws, is perfect in this moment because it gives us a chance to consider public participation, and it also gives us a chance to consider legislative issues that may be coming along and the body of the board meetings discussions. In December and January, already in your hopper, I know, is actually, this one may not be. The board has talked about trying to put together legislative priorities for the new legislature. So that has to be an agenda item. Along with that, this is in the hopper. January and February, sometime in there, the board traditionally has a lunch with legislators. For me, on this special education intervention, when Scott Koenigsegg was presenting, I worry, I would like to have an update at some point I'm not going to be on the board, but you want to have an update in the next 2-3 months, I think, to find out if there are data barriers for either the short term, trying to get through past being an intervention, or longer term for actually determining what things can help children. And the board may need to take a role in that, and at the very least, it may delay the ability of the department to respond quickly to the intervention status and get it done. So I think that you want to do that probably maybe February, March. I would also think that this board should want to make the case for the Great Start Readiness Program. I think that a presentation by staff and also any other players involved in making that program happen is an important discussion because we know that not every family needs that kind of intervention, but for the ones who do, it makes a significant change in how children are ready for school. I think we ought to go visit one of the Hill districts. I think our teacher of the year is absolutely right. I would suggest you may want to defer that to April because I don't see any one of them that's not in the snow belt. Right. And during the Governor's Commission meetings, I think we canceled a trip to Traverse City 4 times. I finally ended up doing it by phone call, unless you're going to the luge in Muskegon, in which case you should do it during the winter. And then the last one is, I think that the board has never, in my time on it, since 1999, missing 4 years, we've never had a presentation on school facilities so that the board really understands what the issues are. Charter schools don't get as much money, or they don't get any money for facilities, but we have incredible disparities between rural and urban, suburban, wealthy, poor. And I think to get a handle on that so we understand it, especially if school finance reform is going to be perking along, the board should get the kind of presentation that would give it a thorough grounding in that. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. And then Nikki and then Cassandra.
I'd like to propose an agenda item for December to have MVC come in. And just to make clear in advance, they will not, I don't believe they'll be presenting on the controversial topic of vaccines themselves, but instead presenting on how our schools are reporting and utilizing personal health information currently, and how I think they are feeling like maybe it's violating FERPA. And I think it sets us in a direction of what currently is happening with student data in various areas, and how we can make sure that our conversation around data is based on what's currently happening and moving in the right direction. So I feel like they would be a good group to bring in December. I think they've been trying to do that for some time. So if we could make that happen, that would be great.
Sandra, Michelle, did you?
Yeah, if Sandra doesn't say it, she might say it.
Now the pressure's on. When Governor Snyder was first elected, we invited him to come and address the board. And now that we have a transition in the governor's office, I would suggest we do the same thing with Governor-elect Whitmer as well.
That was my statement.
Oh, no, don't touch me.
Hey, she's closing up.
Clean your hands first.
Doesn't have to touch it.
Okay. And Michelle?
That was what I was going to say.
All right. Anything else from board members on future agenda items? Okay, we have our list. Thank you very much. Are there any board members who wish to offer comments? Because this is the comments by State Board of Education members. And Eileen, and then Dr. Z.
Along with adopting, I don't know what formalities we need to do to adopt 11O permanently. But in the bylaws, it references the list of topics, agenda topics. And the recommendation has been made to include those in every board meeting so that as we weigh the agenda being brought forward, if something else on that list has hit a boiling point, we know it's there and we can add it to the agenda. Now, I'm talking about the we being next month for me. But I think it makes sense to do that. The agenda committee gets that list, so I know that Maryland has it, and it would just be tacked onto the State Board of Ed agenda. Then you can cross-reference it and figure out what's important as you move forward. And I just want to say I'm planning on being here in December, but I may not be. And if for some reason I'm not, I want to say what a pleasure it's been to serve on this board with this staff. And knowing that everybody here is committed to children, trying to make things better for the children of tomorrow, the adults of tomorrow. Children of today, adults of tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Z.
I thought these comments would be more appropriate in the board sharing rather than the co-president report. Just wanted to say how much I appreciate those of you who supported me in my re-election attempt. I was elected to the board riding on the coattails of a governor's candidate, so I deserved no credit back then. And while I worked hard, I recognized that the top of our ticket never did lead in the polls, so I'm disappointed but not surprised, and I have no regrets. I did want to, I'll say a word of thanks to my colleagues here, but since Eileen may not be here, I would like to say publicly how much I've appreciated your mentoring me, and I got into this work because of my admiration of your work. We haven't always agreed on every item, but then I would not have learned anything from you if we had been in perfect agreement on everything. So I deeply appreciate that. And it has been such a great privilege to work on this board, to deal with ideas, to work with committed and caring people. And, you know, politicians have great people skills, so interacting with you has been a real pleasure for that reason as well. Wanted to share that, and to share publicly what I had shared individually before the meeting began. Congratulations to both Judy Pritchard and Tiffany Tilley. You're caring individuals. I know from my experience that 80 to 85% of the stuff we do on the board is we have no partisan divisions on, and so I know that the bulk of the work will go very well, and I wish you God's blessings in your service on the board in the term ahead. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to future meeting dates. Next meeting is Tuesday, December 11th at 2018. It's at 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting. And followed by the next meeting of Tuesday, January 8th, 2019, at 9:30 a.m. regular meeting. Both meetings are here in the Hannah Building in the State Boardroom. Seeing nothing else on the agenda, it is 4:45 and we are adjourned. Thank you.
This is-